sure if you mentioned this, but I'm wondering how you're gonna learn the spells and yeah.
So at the start, um, one of the main goals that we have is that combat is dangerous. And so, at the start, it might be dangerous to go out and fight. And so, what we want to do is set up kind of similar to Final Fantasy, where in the main town, there are some areas where you can actually train and learn how to fight or learn how to do magic and get those levels up without having to go out and face combat up to a certain point. And that way, players can actually start to learn those skills without running the risk of dying or losing their stuff or getting caught in a loop that they can't engage with. Um, that's kind of the route that we're taking, and some things will probably change, but that's how we're looking at it right now. They just left. Oh well.
Oh, uh, so I had a question on the AI, like enemies, on
Sure.
how they would like respond to such attacks or like actually attack. Will it be more similar to most RPG games where it's more simple attacks, or would they more have like a dynamic system for it?
We definitely want to go with something more dynamic. I think that one of the things that VR combat has been missing is that, creatures and enemies that feel real. Um, that feel sentient enough to make their own decisions, to make decisions in the heat of battle. I've been experimenting with systems where enemies will team up and gang up on you. Sometimes they'll throw their weapons if they feel that they don't have any other choices. Um, but combat shouldn't be this big boring thing. And the
Yeah,
enemies are 100% the cause or prevention of that. So we definitely are looking into some more dynamic systems, and hopefully we can show you more soon.
that is good to hear. Because yeah, a lot of games, at least a lot of VR games and just typical games in general, when the actual combat system is nice, is when the enemies are more fluent with what they do. So making sure to
Agreed.
have like different things instead of just like basic attacks will definitely bring a lot. So I'm excited to see that. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Hello, Bear Pig.
Hi. So I was wondering when you guys fully release the game, what headsets will be compatible because I have a Meta Rift.
Oh, Rift. Okay, awesome. So as laid out in our FAQ, anything that is connected to a PC that meets the requirements will be able to play. And then eventually we want to work towards standalone releases, so your Quest systems. The good thing about Rift is that it's SteamVR compatible, which means that you don't have to do anything extra. Um, like by design, your system is already compatible with our game. The only thing that you'd have to worry about is performance specs, but we're also focusing very heavily on optimization, so I wouldn't stress too much about that.
Alrighty, sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Gotta make sure I don't miss anybody. Hello, just a cow.
Hello. I was just wondering if you'd be able to make melee attacks using, for example, staffs, like a spear or a sword.
Uh, Whenever you say make melee attacks, what do you mean by that?
Would you be able to hit an enemy with a staff instead of casting a spell?
Yes, it probably wouldn't do a lot of damage, but we want, immersion's a big thing, and immersion comes with little like tiny implementations, and one of those is if you want to smack a goblin with your magic staff, you can. Will it do much? Probably not, but you can do it. No one's gonna stop you.
That was good, man.
Hey, what's up, Ghost? It's good to see you.
All right. So I was just wondering, so how you were saying earlier before, how you're going to like implement kind of like voice casting spells with magic
Sure.
and stuff like that. I was also wondering if that would kind of also apply with, say, sword skills as well, if there's going to be any voice activated sword skills in the game.
I'm very doubtful of voice activated sword skills.
Okay.
The good thing about melee weapons and their simplicity of use is that you should be able to do anything and everything that you can do with a melee weapon just by doing the thing. We've been playing around with sword skill ideas, and I can show you. Hopefully, I have a TikTok out Monday showcasing that. But voice probably isn't going to be done for non-magic.
Oh, okay, I got you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Trying to make sure I don't miss people. Here we go. What's up,
Hey,
Blair?
what's going on? What's up? I really wanted to know about if we're going to have any status effects such as like bleed, poison, stuff like that.
Yes. So one of the things that we were kind of planning out was ailments and how they kind of tie into the whole magic thing. So instead of seeing typical things like or things that you've seen probably in popular games, blight, or ailments that are particular, all of the ailments that we have are going to be the cause of something physically binding. So your ailments can be frostbite or burns, or you can be poisoned, which is pretty cut and dry. But the reason that we do that is so we can have all of them tie back into the magic and alchemy element.
Okay.
Because then alchemists can make things specifically to go against things like frostbite and burns and poison. So we're exploring the possibilities there, but short answer, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Hello, Bear.
Hey, can you hear me good? I'm in a truck right now.
Yeah, I can hear you. Long time no talk, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you too again, man. So I think my main combat question is for like group combat. Partying up, or I don't know if you guys really have plans on like dungeons or things of that nature, but
Sure.
if there's like a big fight, is there going to be some sort of design around that role trinity that some of the other MMOs have, kind of like the tank, healer, DPS, or how do y'all kind of plan on doing that if that's even in the thought phase yet?
Good question. So we are actually ignoring the Trinity. We're not ignoring it. It comes naturally whenever you allow players to kind of build themselves out. But we are not forcing the roles of the Trinity because there is a lot of possibility whenever it comes to a more open-ended character building, right? So like take me for example. I love sword and shield. That is my go-to. Give me a sword and a shield and I'm having a good time, right? By nature, there's a good chance that I will probably taking a tank role. I don't have to, and there's nothing forcing me to do so, and my team comp can change that, right? It doesn't mean that I'm immediately useless if I'm with the team. What it does mean is that the door is open for me to either engage with that specific tank role or to go do something else. A lot of the skills that we have are wired towards multiplayer interaction. Like a lot of the things that you can do are built in a way to where you can also use them in groups. So there definitely is a very large focus on multiplayer combat, but we kind of want to avoid the Trinity outright. It's very restrictive, and I think that we can do better for an immersive experience.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess one more question I had to kind of daisy chain off of like tanking and things of that nature. How
Sure.
is like aggro gonna work? If you're trying to pull a pack of something, or if you're trying
Right.
to pull multiple things, how would that kind of function?
So one of the things that we are experimenting with right now is the concept of like anger or irritation, because one of the things that I think that games get wrong is a rudimentary and arbitrary aggro value, right? Where you have someone, that just presses a button and then all of a sudden everything's on them. We like the idea of there being an actual reason that you're aggroed, right? So if
Mhm.
let's say that an archer is like slinging arrows, yeah, that's kind of a pain in the ass for a monster. But if I go up and stab it in the stomach, it's probably going to be pretty mad at me, right?
Mhm.
And those are things that a tank can regulate, being that close and dealing with damage. So things like throwing shields or throwing weapons or even yelling or clanging your weapons together depending on the monster. There are a lot of ideas at play, but it's going to be very involved, right? You are going to have to try to get a monster's attention as opposed
Mhm.
to just doing a skill and then all of a sudden it's on you.
All right, well, I think that's all the questions I had. So sounds
Awesome.
great, man.
Sweet. Thank you then. I make sure I'm not missing anybody. I don't think so. Hello, Spooky.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Will there be any like hand-to-hand combat elements, and if the player has full body tracking, maybe kicking elements?
Maybe on the hand-to-hand combat. I think that we have talked about implementing hand-to-hand combat. I don't know if it is going to be fleshed out as a full weapon system, but we will see what's possible. What I will say is that full body tracking will not have a competitive advantage, specifically in the vein of like being able to kick and that kind of stuff. Not only is that a technical nightmare, but it's also like a core advantage that other players can't get, and we just want to avoid that outright.
Alright. Yeah. Alright, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hello again, Bear Pig.
Hey, so tying into ailments, are you able to put like an ailment on your weapon, like Elden Ring?
Yes. And that
Yes.
can happen from a bunch of different ways. It doesn't just have to be you imbue your weapon. You know, a mage that's in your party can set your sword on fire, or you can dip it into the ground to cover it in poison or you know, blight or whatever it may be. So we're experimenting with a lot of options, but short answer, yes.
Sweet, that's awesome. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. What is
Hello.
up, 14?
So I had two questions. It's about magic for the first one. It's
Okay.
will there be magical spells that require long duration to cast? So like if you have a team and you're casting a spell like I don't know, fireball for example, will it take like example amount of time to actually cast, or is it just like hey, do it as fast as you can. If you do it right, cast automatically.
There will be spells that take time to charge, but most of your smaller spells will be immediately. The cost is mana, not time.
Fair enough. Then I had another one. It was just about how the skill tree and for blacksmithing versus like combat. So like let's say you're alchemist, blacksmith, cooking, whatever. Will those have a separate skill tree compared to the combat one? So like if you're smithing a lot, will you get experience points for that section, and then for combat you get your own section?
They will. They'll be separate.
All right, cool.
Now they will
yeah.
affect each other in certain ways, but I'll get into that later. They will be separate.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's all I got for now.
Yeah, no problem. Welcome back, Shasty.
All right, thank you, thank you. I just had one question about if there's gonna be any stats, and if there was, are the stats gonna be like Fallout, like the special?
So I think all of our stats are going to be pretty in line. Instead of taking a traditional like stat building approach that you see in a lot of RPGs, where you kind of like you give yourself points to strength or to dexterity or whatever. The stats that you get will be core stats. So your character will have a strength level, they'll have an agility level, but those will be leveled up by doing things, right? If you're a blacksmith, your strength will go up. Or if you're fighting monsters a bunch, your strength will go up. If you're running around a lot or jumping off of cliffs or climbing or whatever, your agility will go up. So a lot of it's just going to be tied back into what you do as a player, as opposed to being the traditional like point allocation system.
All right, cool. And I also have one last question.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but are there going to be NPCs, and how important will the NPCs be? And
Good
will they
question.
give you quests?
They will. There will be NPCs. They will give you quests. They will be relatively important, just not for the economy. Because one of the big things that we're focused on, in here is a player economy. Obviously, there will always be NPC fallbacks for shops and a market that people doing life skills can sell to. But
Alright.
that's pretty much the gist of it for the economy.
Okay, cool. So you could buy like ores from an NPC and then use those ores, smelt them down, and use them for your blacksmith stuff. And please, don't mind the background.
No, you're okay. You can buy ore from NPCs, but it'll cost less and be better quality if you go to a player. And that's the whole
Okay.
point.
Alright, thank you. Bye.
Yeah, no problem. What is up, Baymax?
Oh, hey. Excited to be here. I actually have two questions, if you don't mind me asking.
Sure.
So I'm a alchemist. Like I like doing potions and everything. Is there going to be like any potion making, like that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Like, all right, cool. Because is it going to be
Alchemy
like
is going to be one of the core life skills.
all right? Because that's
well,
actually my thing. Alchemy is like my favorite.
Awesome.
My second question. This is related to a blacksmith. It's one of my top favorites.
Okay.
Is there going to be any runes? Is there going to be any runescapes? Like, like you can put runes on a weapon, like you see sometimes, like in different games.
We're considering inscriptions, but mainly for like elemental attunement. It's kind of up in the air, but right now we're considering three main alteration ideas. Where one is
Mhm.
specifically about buffs that can change the way that your weapon responds to elements or just general stats. And the second one is regarding crystals for signature arts, which is something that we're working on a little bit now, just as a means of show off. So
Right.
we've
with
definitely
the
considered a bunch of that.
so the blacksmith part, like with the crystals, it's kind of like arcane blacksmith.
I wouldn't say so. So the crystals is going to be a very like late game high level thing. But
Right.
on the topic of runes and inscriptions, they will exist and they will have general buff or even elemental properties.
That's actually what I was curious about. Like blacksmithing and alchemy is one of my top 10 favorite things to do.
Right.
Thank you for
Awesome.
the questions, man.
Not a problem.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Hey, Crimson.
Yo, so I actually have 3 questions, if that's okay.
Sure, as long as they're combat related.
Yep. The first question is, will there be AoE magic so you can like damage multiple enemies at once or heal multiple teammates with a single healing spell?
Yes, there will be AoE spells.
Okay. The second question, will there be player tracking magic or some kind of item you could use to like track a player and then later ambush them?
I don't know about that. So we have to see whether or not the PvP is going to be a full scale implementation before we can consider things like that.
Okay.
Though I won't lie when I say that we've considered things like navigation magic, like things that you can use to trail a path into a dense area or out of an area, in order to just kind of keep your steps in front of you. But that's pretty much the extent of that. Until we know whether or not PvP is going to be like a full blown implementation, it's kind of hard to say for those things.
Okay, and the third question, like, if you're in a party with people, like your teammates, would you be able to still damage them with your weapons, or would they be invincible to you?
We'll probably make it a setting, because I know that some people like to play hardcore, and some people want a more casual team experience. And combat's going to be dangerous enough to where some people might just not want to have to worry about their own teammates. So it'll probably be an option that players can choose or party leaders can choose specifically. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Yeah, no problem. Hello, Jaquavius.
Hello. All right, so I have a question about the archery. Will it
Sure.
be to where, like, you actually have to like track and like follow the arrow, or is it going to be kind of more like hit scan, kind of easier to do?
Definitely not going to be hit scan. You will have to earn your shots. I think one of the things that might help, and one of the parts of the leveling for archery is like stability in your shots, or even like small magical guides. But you will have to earn your shots. It'll be all physics based.
And will arrows be limited, or will you just have like an infinite supply of them?
They'll have to be crafted, but that means that you could also craft tipped arrows or arrows with magic inscriptions that do crazy things. So a lot of possibilities there, but because of that, your arrows are going to be limited. And that is built into crafting and alchemy and even smithing for some cases.
All right. One last question. How
Sure.
intense is the combat going to be? Is it going to be like very like blade and sorcery kind of vibe where it's like you have dismemberments and like you can stab certain areas, or is it just going to be like you just hit them and like just deal the damage?
There definitely won't be dismemberment. That is a server nightmare. Especially if we want to shoot for our goal of like hundreds and hundreds of people on a server at once. One of the things that I will say is that while it's not going to be very or like super gory, it will be very intense, right? We want combat to be difficult. We want it to be dangerous. That way, there is a ceiling, right, that people can climb to, or a ceiling that people can break. And a lot of the themes that will be discussed in the game and in the story are, I mean, pretty dark. Like it's, there will be topics of ethno cleansing and um, large scale warfare and conflict and how it all alludes to death. So there are going to be a lot of things that are on the darker side. I can't say for certain that it's going to come out in the literal actual combat because it's kind of a nightmare from a technical perspective.
All right, that's all I had.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, my bad. I mean, caught you early. I think we're caught up. Hello, Kev.
Hi, I wanted to ask if um if there will be like community events where like all the people needs to fight like one big boss and something like that.
Yes. What is more common though, and what we'll probably do more often, is where everyone has to fight a large group of enemies as opposed to a single boss. Um, I like to talk about the whole Goblin War scenario, where squads and squads of goblins like rush the main town, and everyone collectively has to get their weapons and go fend them off. That's probably more in line with some of the events that we would do, but there probably will be events where we have everyone fighting, large bosses for the sake of Asteria.
Okay, that sounds good. And I have a question. Will there be
Sure.
like if you are really like you played a lot, you will like earn like necromancy, you know?
So
Like
the one I know that necromancy is one that a lot of people talk about wanting. The big thing about necromancy is that we don't know if we can do that yet, just because uh, necromancy from a technical perspective and from a server perspective is a lot. It's kind of hard to balance performance with things like summoning entities, especially where there are hundreds of players in a scene. So I don't know if we're gonna have necromancy yet, but I'd be willing to say it's probably not gonna be at launch.
okay. And my final question is, will I be like able to play with like the PlayStation VR too?
If we
Because
release
I
for
like it.
PlayStation VR, then yes.
Oh, okay. I think that's everything I thank you.
Awesome, no problem. Welcome back, 419.
Oh, so I did have a few questions because I brought up a good example
Sure.
about when you talk about the goblin hordes, and
Mhm.
I wonder, it's still going to be real-time events like during the servers, like goblins are attacking the town, so everyone in the server has to go defend it, and if it doesn't, then perhaps some consequences will happen with that, kind of like Helldivers.
Yes.
Ooh, that's gonna be nice.
Straight up,
And
yeah.
then,
So one of the things that we talked about was like, imagine what would happen if we lost the Goblin War, right? There could be a couple of weeks where the city is in ruins, or not ruins, but it's in disarray, as it has to be repaired and rebuilt back up, because people didn't come to arms. Maybe it affects services. Who knows? So there's, we want to provide incentive for people to engage with those, but also we want to make it very like day-to-day immersive. You should be able to see the effects of everyone's effort in the world.
that's really nice to hear. And then another one was about the weapons itself. So will there be, because will each weapon have their own unique like skills they can get? So like if you were a spearman, you'll have different moves compared to like a swords, or will they all
Yes.
be similar skills?
They'll be separate. Some of them will definitely overlap,
Yeah.
but there will be a pretty different variety of skills for different weapons.
Okay, so like, okay, that's good. And then will you be able to, so for, sorry, I'm trying to think.
No, you're good.
So when you have a tank player, typically some games, even with like I can't think of a game off the top of my head, sadly, but there are some games where the AI, even though you have players in front of you, the person will still come towards you because you did the most damage. I think like one of them is World of Warcraft. Will will the aggro be based off of how much damage, or can you use different stuff to make the aggro stay on a person?
We'll definitely provide a variety of ways for aggro to be kept. I know that whenever someone asked me that question earlier, I talked about specific ways to piss off monsters, like banging, um, banging your weapons together, making a bunch of noise, or doing stuff that would cause a lot of pain to a monster, so it'd be pissed off at you specifically, or even spells along those lines. So it definitely won't be who does the most damage. We want to avoid that outright because that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's good. Also, will each player have collision on them so that way you don't walk through people? Because some games like for multiplayer you can just walk through them, and I'm thinking in like some scenarios like you perhaps like have a spear, we have a tank with a shield, and you can just like stay by the tank stabbing while he holds a shield out. And I'm
There will
thinking if that would be
be
possible.
there will be colliders per players. I think what might have to end up happening though is those colliders will only affect people in your party, mainly because there are a lot of what ifs whenever it comes to every player in an MMO having a collider.
That is
Hundreds of people in one space can cause a lot of commotion just having colliders.
Yeah. Also, will there perhaps be a way for you to like grab someone's shoulder so that way you can stay close to them in case of like small hallways and such like that? Be easier to
We're
like
gonna
off
we're
them.
gonna try. I play a lot of operational games, and I love the idea of keeping contact with the people in your party.
Mhm.
We're gonna do our best, but that is more of a sandbox feature, and so we'll see if we can do it in a way that is performant. Because why wouldn't you be able to grab your buddy's shoulder?
Yeah.
So it's definitely on the list.
All right. Thank you. That'll be all for now.
No problem. All right. As I put in chat, she is gonna have the last combat question, and then we're gonna move on to life skills. Hey, what's
Hey,
up,
so
Jay?
how you?
Good. We are making it.
Sweet, sounds good. I just got two questions, mostly like
Sure.
magic combat related.
Awesome.
Maybe three. When it comes to
That's fine.
casting the spell, for like choosing different spells, are you guys gonna go more of the blade and sorcery route where you click a menu and then it opens a sub menu to choose your spell, like around your wrist or your staff, say in this example? Or are you gonna go more the I can't remember the name of the game, but you basically draw like a rune to cast a spell?
We'll be redrawing. And
Rune.
the current path that we have set up is where you'll draw your first rune to pick an element, and then you'll draw your second rune to pick how that element is used or formed, right? So in that second one, or the application, right? So you have element, application, and then execution. The application is how it comes out, whether it's a missile or whether it's rain or whether it's a shield or something or other, and then from there you'll be able to, depending on the spell, select a potential target, and then um, from there send that spell off. So we're definitely doing the rune drawing approach, and we're also considering the possibility of replacing drawing entirely with spoken spells. But we're
Oh,
gonna see what that looks like.
yeah, that sounds awesome. I like the idea of the selecting the element and then selecting the application. That sounds really interesting. Uh,
I think we wanted to pick a way that would leave a high skill ceiling, and then also kind of builds muscle memory. So whenever people are getting better at specific magic, they will get
no, that's
more
nice. I
comfortable with those
remember
spells over time.
I remember the issue. I figured out the name. It was Orbis VR. The issue I had with that was if you want to do a spell, it was like a super specific. That was the one spell you could do, and not like it
Right.
opened a range of spells. So that's a good way to counter that. Uh, when it comes to actually sending the spell out, let's say like a basic fireball, for example, are you guys gonna have it go on a set path, or depending on the way you move your hand slash staff, it'll control the direction?
I think that there might be spells where we have like a directional control. I think that that'd be really interesting. It's possible that we also present some trade-offs for that, right? If you can guide, um, a specific spell. Maybe you have to for the circumstance, but it'll do less damage or it'll be slower. Kind of like Elite Dangerous, if any of you have played that, where you can choose gimbaled turrets and gimbaled weaponry for the obvious expensive damage per second. So there's definitely a lot of potential there. I think it just will come down to what myself and now and Toot throw together, because I think that we all have some really cool ideas on the table.
Sweet, sounds good. And then final question: when it comes to defense and Magic, how you guys are gonna handle that? Is it gonna be similar like Free Aaron, for example, where they create like sort of a shield coming out of their staff, or is it gonna be bubble shields, or just a multitude of options, like you said, depending on the rune or the application that you cast from it?
There will probably be a good few options. So we kind of categorized all of these into utility spells, and that includes defensive magic, healing magic, things like cantrips for traps or physical manifestations for certain things. Um, but whenever it comes to actual defensive magic, I think the real challenge is going to be taking a base defensive spell and turning it into a bunch of different things. So what we have envisioned right now is that we have like a base shield, kind of like you mentioned, but the application determines how it's used, whether it is a bubble shield or it's a shield on the staff or it's a shield thrown in front of another player.
Okay.
Maybe it's in the form of Earth specifically, as a failsafe for defensive. But a lot in the air. We have a lot of ideas. Hopefully, now that we're moving towards the basic magic system, we'll get to show off a lot more soon.
Sounds cool. That's all I had, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, we're at the point where we need to move on to the second category, which is life skills. Now, there's one question that I want to answer real quick because it was brought to my attention. And that was, how does someone starting out fresh as a blacksmith compete with a super high level blacksmith in a shop scenario? And that's a great question. So one of the things that we talked about for a while was monopolization and how exactly we wanted to avoid it. And it seems like there's a good few options, at least at first glance, and then you get into them and you realize that some of them are still counterintuitive. Right now, what we have is the easy anti-monopolization, where people like high-level blacksmiths can still sell lower-level items, but they have to sell them for more, right? So you can't, with all of your infinite money and infinite skills, sell torches for 1 gold a pop. That way, anybody that is doing blacksmithing or crafting or whatever has value in the economy, right? Me, the level 90 guardian of Asteria or whatever, can go to a level 2 blacksmith and be like, hey, I really need some arrows or whatever. And that engagement can happen because it's going to be cheaper to go to them, right? So I'll leave that at that. But we're going to go into life skills. So blacksmithing, crafting, cooking. If you guys have any questions about those, go ahead and put your questions in. I'm gonna assume that all the questions here are not combat questions. If you had a combat question and you put your hands up, put your hand down, pretty please. Do that. I know questions. But yes. All right, that one disappeared. Hello, Moonshine.
Ooh, kind of caught me off guard.
Gotcha.
It was almost related to the combat stuff, but it still is related to this. I was wondering, what's the balance between looting from combat and looting or getting your loot from like your skills like blacksmithing?
Good question. So I think that there's going to be a bit of a departure from the traditional, like you get your gear from looting typically. Instead of getting gear out in the wild, the main goal is to get materials, right? And that way, everything that you do or collect is routed back into the player economy, right? So I go out,
Right,
instead of
but you don't-
finding, a sword and armor, I find a bunch of titanium and a crystal, and then I can bring those things to a blacksmith, and then he makes me a weapon, and that is my benefit, right? That is what I have gotten out of that experience. So, now, is that to say that you won't find like cool rare weapons or armor out in the wild? No, but it's going to be a lot less than the much bigger loot that is going to a player, have them forge armor, or you do it yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was the only question I had.
It's good to see you, Moonshine. Oh, we did get the
Yeah, you
hands
too.
fixed, by the way. I saw that
Okay, good.
message from
Yeah, I
you.
was wondering.
We did it.
Awesome.
What is up, 419?
Hello. I've been excited waiting for this one because blacksmithing. Because I know we seen a little bit when it was first like getting made. I think about the blacksmithing from
Sure.
stuff like that from before. But I want to get overall. Was there anything changed from the videos that you're seeing? Like, how would the hammering work? Same with like sharpening. Is it gonna be like some kind of mini game where you have to like hit the spot certainly, have like the white edge across the sword, or how would that exactly work?
Definitely not mini games. We don't want to dumb down the experience if it's going to be a full life skill. And so sharpening a weapon in game will be like sharpening a weapon in real life, right? You will have to sharpen every part of the sword. If you over sharpen parts of it, you could mess it up. Or if you under sharpen parts, or if you miss parts, then it just won't be as sharp as it could be. You'll have the tools to do so, and there will be a considerable margin for error, so it's not this frustrating process. But no mini games. Everything will be done 100%. Now, since that last TikTok, not much has changed because we've been focusing on getting, fundamental framework stuff out, and we're moving on to like super base combat. I hope to have more in blacksmithing in the near future, but it's kind of on the back burner while we work on cooking and crafting.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's just another thing for it. So will blacksmithing and rune smithing be like separate from each other, correct?
No.
Okay.
Runesmithing will be specifically integrated into weapons that a blacksmithing makes. Now, will it be a skill that you can unlock separately from the main blacksmithing path? Maybe. But it's all going to be under that same umbrella.
Okay. And then also for when you're making weapons, like you know how people have to heat up and then like soak it in water or heat it up and then like bang on it. Will he be doing the same kind of thing there?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a blacksmith. We have a few actually now, helping us work on our blacksmithing systems, the same way that we have a few people in culinary arts helping us work on our cooking systems.
Oh, that is
So
really nice.
so we'll have I like to think pretty authentic but still really approachable systems.
That's good to hear. And this is just something for the uh so when it comes to getting the materials to craft, like let's just say food, uh alchemists, blacksmithing, etc., but you have to go out to like certain areas, perhaps like mountains, and actually go dig for it, or will it be like loot drops?
No, you'll have to go get them, or you can get someone else to go get them for you. That's the joy of having this kind of symbiotic system where people are equipped to go out into the wild, and there are also people equipped to do blacksmithing. Right? If you're a blacksmith, someone's going to have to go out to this place in the middle of nowhere to get that material. It could be you, or you could pay a fighter or an adventurer to go do it for you, so you can continue to do your work.
Yeah. This is gonna be my final question, but this one actually just came to mind. Will there be multiple save files for it? Because you can only because like some people probably want to go straight for the fighting and such, or maybe perhaps they would like to be like an alchemist but also be a blacksmith on another account, or will there be
So
different ways to change it?
we don't know yet. It's just going to depend on just kind of the resources that we have, but also with the system that we're setting up, different save files aren't going to be something that is as attractive to players as it is in other experiences, just because um, it's going to take you the same amount of time. Actually, it would take you less time learning fighting and blacksmithing on one character than it would learning blacksmithing on one character and then learning fighting on the other. You leveling up any skill does not detriment your ability to learn other skills. That being said, we do want to try to have multiple save files because I know that people, myself included, like to have multiple characters for different things. They like to have their own stories for those characters, which is completely fine. Ideally, because it's not the hardest thing in the world to implement from a technical perspective, ideally we have a few characters. I want to say at least two as a start, but three is ideal. But we don't know yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Friday, you're up.
Yeah, I just have three questions on blacksmithing, which you're probably going to get a lot on. Are you going to be able to like melt down broken items or damaged items in order to like reforge them into newer items?
I don't know about meltdown, but yes, there will be ruined items. You will be able to restore them.
Okay, okay. How will you decide in game that you're gonna make, like, for example, a sword or a spear? Will it be through like a physical template that you pour your material into once you've melted it, or will it be like a menu that you select, hey, I want to make this?
So there's probably going to be some templatization, but it won't be pouring, right? Because a lot of your stronger and more sustainable smithing doesn't come from pouring; it comes from forging outright. And so whenever we talked about like the whole, I guess the interaction for players, one of the things that we teased is that a player would be able to, go through and select certain items to prepare a blacksmith's, I guess, build. And so we'll probably take that approach for the blacksmith themselves, right? If you want to build something, you'll be able to um, at least choose a base and then make the base, and then from there the customization's on you, right? You can just go grab the handle that you want, or go grab the decorations that you want after the main part is done, or go the tip of the spear, and then just do your own thing until it's complete, and that's it.
Okay. And I saw someone, and I want to ask this one too. Are you going to be able to like infuse magic into the materials, or is it just going to be a
Not
plain weapon?
not directly. You
Not
will be able
directly.
to rune write, which will affect the weapon's ability to interact with and
Okay.
maintain levels of magic. But we're not going to experiment with actually infusing magic into items yet, because the open end for a spell sword is already there, right? If you learn magic and you learn swordplay, then you can already do that
Gotcha.
without the middleman that is there for narrative sake.
Similar to like blade and sorcery, how you can apply the magic to the sword once you have load,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay.
But
And my last.
or you can
Oh,
get it from the world, but it won't be inherent to the weapon.
yeah.
You got it right.
Gotcha, gotcha. And my last question, and this one might be a bit of a reach.
That's
Um,
fine.
so, but is the system going to function to where like there are set items that you can forge and those are the only type of things that you can forge, or will I be able to make like custom shapes and custom like types of weapons?
The customization is probably off the table just because there's way too many factors. Now, the weapon
Yeah.
customization will exist and it will be pretty in depth. So, we will have blade shapes that you can choose from. There will be different hilts and guards and colors and materials and metal alloys and even colors of metal alloys that players will be able to choose from. It just won't be like a create your own system, design your own parts kind of thing, because it's
Yeah, that's a
just
lot.
not sustainable for an MMO.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's about all I had to ask for that.
Awesome.
Hey again.
What's up?
So kind of tying into the customization, will you
Sure.
be able to request like a custom weapon for like a blacksmith?
Yes. And we've been working on the systems to make that happen, so it's fair for all parties involved. But yes, you'll be able to go to a blacksmith and go, I want this, this, and this. Or you'll be able to use some sort of integrated system to set up a job or a gig for them so they can follow it to the letter without there being any problems.
All right, sweet. So I also want to ask, how will crafting work? Will it be like you see a blueprint floating in the air and you put the pieces together, or will it be like something else?
We don't know just yet. We have to experiment with the systems. Now, I do like the system that Township did, but I also think that a blueprint is more or less a way to kind of, I don't know, kind of band-aid and over complexity. Because if crafting and Township Tale didn't have any blueprints, it'd be pretty impossible. Not impossible, just incredibly complex. So we don't know yet. That being said, I want to make sure that it's approachable by anyone. And so if we end up having to take a route where there are paper templates on tables where you can set things up, then we might take that approach. But in the vein of immersion, there will not be floating holograms.
Alrighty, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Jaquavius, you're up next.
All right, so I have a question about, will there be like farming? Like, will I be able to like plant my crops and have them grow over time, or is it all just going to be go explore to get your resources for like cooking and like some other things?
Good question. So farming is one of those things that is a real, I guess, immersive challenge, because we have to consider, player plots and, how they take up space in the world. And we've considered a bunch of possibilities to make that work. Just know for now that farming is 100% on the table. Now, is that going to mean that you can farm for anything like minerals and fish? No, it's going to be crops, right? Which is probably going to tie into cooking and alchemy more than anything. But we are absolutely looking into it as a means of life skill or procurement, even, right? We have a few that are categorized as procurement and not exactly life skills, and that falls under there.
All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Make sure I don't miss anybody. All right, Webley, you're up.
Hey. So I think you've gotten questions about like similar to this one, but I'm just gonna phrase it a little bit differently. So about blacksmithing, will there be like custom weapon making, as in like, is weapon creation going to be recipes and essentially like hard coded, or can someone discover new weapons that no one else has before?
So like the other person who asked this question, we can't have just infinite customization or infinite balance because for an MMO it's just not sustainable at all. And procedural generation doesn't make for good weapons, or not interesting weapons at the very least. And so there will be templates, but there will be a lot of customization involved in those templates.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Zach, you're up. You're muted, by the way, friend.
Sorry about
There you go. No, you're good.
that. I have a question. For like crafting items, would we be able to use less items as we get more skilled at the crafting? Like use like a few less pieces of iron to make a good sword, or use less items in a thing to get an additional item.
I'm doubtful. And the reason that I say this is because part of a player economy is not just money, it's resource. And if people are allowed to deflate a resource without the value of the output of those resources changing, then it'll crash an economy. What we'll do instead is, as time goes on, crafters will have access to more tools that will allow them to craft things more quickly or to craft different items that they couldn't craft before, as opposed to having them able to craft with less items. So we can just avoid artificial deflation, inflation.
My next question is, what type of weight system are you going to be using? Like items, weapons, stuff like that. Would
Good
the
question.
weight be a concept in forging, or?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So we're actually experimenting with weight right now. There will be weight in this game, right? Your weapons will have weight. The stuff that you carry will have weight. It'll affect the way that you climb and move around. Now, is that to say that,
How heavy an item is? Like how you swing something, or like
yes.
picking up something will affect the speed? Yeah, that.
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
That's pretty much it.
is that to say that
Yeah.
you'll be able to like craft your way out of a heavy item? Probably not. It's probably going to be heavy no matter what. But that weight has been something that we've been playing around with a lot.
Okay, I appreciate.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. It has like a delay, so I don't even get a chance to see. All right, I just invited. I am Giant. You're up.
So I wanted to ask a couple questions about selling stuff actually.
Sure.
Will you be able to like make shops and stuff and sell it yourself, or do you only buy from NPCs?
You definitely will not only be able to buy stuff from NPCs. The whole goal is to go to a player over an NPC whenever you can. Players will be able to sell items, and we're currently working on, kind of how a shop system would work. But ideally, right, players at a certain level and certain life skills will be able to open up shops and keep inventory and sell items.
Okay, that's great. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Cruisin', you're up. Welcome back.
Okay, so I have a few questions.
Sure.
Will there be cooking in this game?
Yes. We're working
Okay,
on a
and
cooking
for
TikTok right now.
oh, nice. And for cooking, will different foods give you like different boosts or like heal you a different amount?
Yes, there will be different foods that set up different effects, which means that not only is it a chef's job to cook responsibly, but it's also a chef's job to understand what is and isn't good for certain people so they can guide them in the right direction.
Okay. Will there be fishing in this game?
Yes.
Okay, and will there be different kinds of fish where some are like more rare that give you better boost?
Yes.
Okay, and last question I have is how will you carry items with you? Like when you're going on an adventure, will you have like a backpack or what?
It'll probably be a backpack system, but we want to kind of move away from like an overly simple backpack system. So, what we've kind of drawn out so far is a backpack where you have a bunch of quick slots for stuff like health potions and your map and maybe lockpicks or quick things that you can assign that are useful to every player. And then you also have like a compartmentalized spot for all of your general inventory. We're still kind of working on the system, but I think that a backpack is the smartest move without making things too inconvenient.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Demi, it's good to see you.
Hi, it's been a while.
It has been a while.
So I have a few questions. So
Sure.
entry level slash mentor players for crafting and gathering and such.
Great
Is that
question.
something?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Long answer. Um, One of the things that we understand is going to be a challenge with taking a system that is different from every MMO and is different from every VR game is that it's not going to be plug and play for every player. And so what we want to do is we want to set up like guilds, quote unquote, the same way that in Final Fantasy you can go to like the Paladins Guild to go learn those skills. There will be places where you'll be able to learn combat, places that you'll be able to learn magic and smithing and crafting, and then also we want to incentivize people who rise to that mentor status to specifically engage with those systems and help new players to get through them. All of them are narratively tied back into the world. Like for example, um, all of the fuel and fire in the main city of Solara is fueled by the Fire Magic Apprentice Guild. All of the fire magic that they create is fueled back into the city. Same things for things like lightning or infrastructure for things like blacksmiths doing training practice. So there's a lot that has gone into our considerations for the whole mentor new player system, and we want to have mentors directly engage with that system. So long answer, yes, we've put a lot of thought into it. So
Good. Second question is custom cooking recipes. So I know that there will not be full customization because that's incredibly difficult.
Right.
But like adding certain ingredients that would add an extra buff or something along those lines.
So I think that whenever it comes to the actual cooking system, I think it'll be modular, right? So take Monster Hunter for example. I think Monster Hunter is a great example, where you have a base ingredient and then you have ingredients that go on top of it that change the composition and by proxy the buffs and debuffs that a dish gives. That's kind of the goal that we're going with, and we want there to be enough variety, obviously, so that cooking can be this big thing that people can do as their main objective, just like with blacksmithing, with crafting, with alchemy. Um, so a lot of it's going to be compartmentalized in that way. So uh, instead of it being like you can choose to add um, like this garnish on top of a completely finished dish, you can choose that as part of the dish, right? Now, is that to say that we'll allow players to just have infinite ingredients on a plate? Probably not. The confines there are still kind of up in the air while we flesh out the basic system. But it's going to be very modular. It won't be you are confined to a specific dish that you have to make. There's going to be a lot of freedom there.
All right. And similar to the cooking, is alchemy gonna have that similar customization?
Maybe. So the thing about alchemy is that alchemy is a much. I'd like to say that alchemy is the baking of magic, where you have to be very specific in very specific ways, or things will blow up in your face. And so, specifically for alchemy, I think that there will be freedom to experiment, but I don't know if that freedom is going to come in the form of full-blown potions or specific recipes like it would with cooking. I'd say that they'd be considerably different in that regard.
It'd be funny to make it where it actually blows up in your face.
It probably will. You'll be able to take damage from cooking and blacksmithing if you burn or cut yourself. All of
Okay.
these things have been thought through.
And one last question, combat as a gatherer. When you go out into the wild and go and gather stuff, say you have like specific gear meant for gathering or crafting on, how would that affect your ability to handle if you got attacked?
Really just depends on if you've been leveling fighting, right? So if your main objective is to go be a gatherer, if you go gather and you like to craft or smith, and you go out just to go get stuff and you haven't fought before, what you're wearing, unfortunately, is kind of past the matter. One of the big goals for leveling up as a player and being a part of the economy is that there are people who can fight, and so you go with them to go get stuff, right? Or alternatively, there will be pieces of clothing or equipment for each life skill that is specifically meant to help you avoid combat, right? So for crafters or gatherers or alchemists, you'll have smoke bomb pockets so you can disengage from combat, or for smiths, you'll carry ember packs with you, things that you can pepper enemies with. But
Sort of like
if
the
you
stealth skill in Final Fantasy.
Right. Very, very small things that'll kind of help you disengage, but that does not mean that you will be able to engage directly in combat. Your own skills will be a lot more effective than your armor.
All right, that's all the questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's make sure I didn't miss anybody. Yeah, I see you, Buttermilk. I'm scrolling up just to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I will take that as a no. I'm not seeing anything. All right, Buttermilk, you're up.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
All right, couple questions. How will respawning work in here?
Good
If it
question.
would help.
So right now, we pretty much have it set in stone that whenever you respawn, it'll be at a safe zone, the last safe zone you were at. So let's say that you were in Solara, you go out and you get your ass kicked, you'll wake up in Solara. Probably with a porting fee for them bringing your body or you back to town.
You skipped Spooky. They've been waiting for like 20 minutes.
Did I skip Spooky? Damn. All right, I'll give you next Spooky. I'm sorry.
So like, will you be
yeah.
is all your stuff gone after that?
No,
Or-
not all your stuff.
Okay.
You will lose gold, and you'll lose some, if not all of the non-rare items that you got since the last time you visited a safe zone. So if you go to a safe zone and then you leave, you get, I don't know, 10 twigs or something, and you die, you'll probably lose them. You get looted.
Okay. Also, so let's say I'm in a party of 4, we're trying to explore, right? How will long rests work? So like, how can we set up a campfire and stuff like that? That's
You'll
even
actually be
possible.
able to set up a camp and rest.
Oh, sweet.
There,
Okay.
there will be, and it's super simple from a technical perspective, but you set up a camp, you rest at the camp, and then after a certain period of resting, that will give you a bunch of good status effects, whether it be buffs or specific restorations for mana and stuff. And a
Yeah,
lot of
but-
that will come down to cooking. The big goal is to not set up a camp just to have those things happen to you automatically, but you set up a camp so you have a place where you can sharpen your weapons and cook food and then use that to fuel buffs. So a lot of it's going to be very involved, so you're not just sitting around.
All right. So that also ties into like a day-night cycle. How will that work?
There is a day-night cycle. We're trying to figure out the best time ratio to have with real life time. But there will be a day-night cycle. It'll be consistent for everybody. And there will also be seasons and weather cycles, because from a technical perspective, they're not difficult to implement. But I could talk for hours about that.
Okay. One last thing. So let's say you want to be a mage, right? Let's take Freeman, for example. Are you able to do like day-to-day things for contracts, like helping around the main town or something? All right, sweet.
Yep. Lots of player
Okay.
involvement.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, Spooky. I feel bad. Let's get you in here. Let me see that question.
Thank you. So, with blacksmithing and just cooking in general, will there be sort of like some sort of imperfection or food quality system where players can build their reputation of like perfect weapons or perfectly made food?
So there's been a lot of contention about this point specifically because there's the trade-off of uh, do we let players mess up and then ruin the experience for another player? And the question is, or the answer is, we don't know yet. Right now, we're considering what it would mean to, instead of having debuffs happen for bad performance, for buffs to happen for good performance, right? We always want to incentivize and not decentivize. Especially whenever it comes to like a primarily PvE experience. We want to incentivize interactions before anything else. And so right now, the idea is that if a blacksmith does really well, you might get special skills or stats for a weapon that's made, or you might get special buffs or specific changes for like time for meals, right? Or strength for potions. So there's definitely a lot in the air there. We are considering it. A lot of it's just going to come down to what is and isn't reasonable because we know that there's always the possibility for a player to get screwed over by another player that just doesn't know how to do their job.
So two more questions. People are begging. Sorry
Sure.
to hold you up, but
No, you're good.
people are wanting me to ask about durability in
No
weapons.
durability. Okay, so your weapons cannot break, but they can get dull, which means you'll have to sharpen them. If you bring them to a blacksmith to get sharpened, they will stay sharp for longer. Or you can just do it out in the field yourself.
And then one final thing, will food like expire if it's like in a backpack for a while?
You know, I haven't considered it, but I'd be willing to say yes because why wouldn't it? So the gameplay loop that we talked about a lot was let's take me for example, Sword and Shield, right? I go with my buddies, I go fight a monster, and then I almost get my ass kicked, but I'm alive, and so me and my team goes back to Solara, the main town, and I go to a blacksmith and I get my weapon sharpened, and then I go to a chef, and then I go eat, and then I am fully prepared to get back out into the fight, and then I go, right? But if I try to stock a bunch of food, not only does it take me completely away from that loop, but also why would you have a bunch of food in your backpack? I think that giving the players the resources to make food on the fly, like the camps that we talked about, would probably be a pretty strong idea.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to hold up anymore. But there is one more question.
Go for it. Go for it.
So will there be any sort of it's kind of hard to put it, but any sort of plot claiming or building so that players could maybe build their own blacksmiths or maybe even build their own restaurants if they
Probably
are
not.
not
I'd be willing to say probably not. Only because there is limited space in a world. I have a question. Let's just say it in the chat. Who here has played Unturned? Free block zombie game on Steam. Has anyone here played Unturned? Awesome. Okay, a bunch of you have. So, what do you think would happen if buildings weren't destructible in Unturned? If you couldn't destroy anybody else's buildings in Unturned, what do you think would happen? There'd be buildings everywhere, right? Everywhere. They would cover the map. They would, remove place for, of course, new buildings. They'd remove spots for gathered materials. So the problem with a PvE game where you can claim plots is that there's limited world space. Now, is that to say that that won't exist at all? I know that we were talking about farming. It's possible that farmers can set down small plots and maybe bigger ones depending on their level. Though we want our main city to be substantial enough to where housing and shops can be consolidated there, right? If we design a good enough city that accommodates having just a shit ton of shops or even market stalls and apartments and full blown houses, we can circumvent that problem entirely.
All right, yeah. So just like maybe like a pre-built tavern sort of thing.
Right. And so I think that as we continue to develop, we'll see what buildings would be possible for certain life skills. And it's very possible that we go the route of allowing chefs or even groups of chefs or like small guilds to run a business together. Now, again, like I said, that's up in the air, but it's something that we're definitely considering.
All right. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. I know I missed people. I'm trying to see who it was I missed in what order. All right, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to order them based off of hands that I see in the thing from now on. So we're gonna rapid fire these questions. PKM, you haven't asked any questions yet, so we'll let you go first.
What's up? What's up? Wait, can you
Hey,
hear
what's
me
up?
good? My mic has been bugging
You're
out
good.
recently.
No, you sound
All
great.
right. All right. I have like 5 main questions. Is that okay?
Sure, as long as they're life skill related, be my guest.
All right. Like, will there be like horses or different mounts to get to far locations?
Yes, we're working on mounts right now. Horses is probably going to be the primary one, and we'll experiment with some other ones as we go on.
Okay. And also, is there gonna be like magic that can teleport you to different locations?
Maybe, but it might not be a skill. We might relinquish it to items. A lot of it is, it's probably going to be mainly travel between main locations. It's not going to be you can travel to the top of this mountain or whatever with magic. It'll probably be more for fast travel for discovered locations.
Okay, I got you. And for my second question, like, how big will the towns be? Like, how many minutes does it take to walk across one?
It'll be considerable. For a main city like Solara, especially, I think that you can reasonably expect that it would take you, if you wanted to just walk, it'd probably take you a good couple of minutes. Just because we want there to be enough space to have, just a breadth of player experience. So
Okay, and I don't know if this has to do with like life skills and stuff, but how in depth like will the guild system be? Is there gonna be like guild rankings and stuff like that?
we don't know just yet. Guilds are one of those things that we can't really tell what they're going to look like until we get there and we see what's possible. Ideally, we set up systems for guilds to be able to maybe hold their own shops or run businesses together, or maybe fight as groups in certain like player event battles. And maybe there's a rank system, but we don't know yet. But as soon
Alright.
as we do, we'll let everyone know.
Okay, and for my last question, how friendly is the game gonna be to like solo players?
I think there's not going to be a single player who can't go and do everything by themselves if they put their mind to it.
Okay. Alright, thank you. That's all I had.
Yeah, no problem. All right, note you also haven't asked any questions, so I'm going to pull you on next.
Alrighty, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, I have 2 questions. I don't know if they've been answered or not, just because I just queued in. How many life skills are there going to be total?
Good question. So right now we have blacksmithing, crafting, cooking, and alchemy as the main 4 life skills. And then we have procurement, which is kind of like a life skill, but much lesser, where it's just about gathering and consolidating materials. And that is fishing, farming, mining, and then there's a slot for another that we haven't put on the table yet, but that's kind of what it looks like for right now.
Okay, so about like 8 or 9.
I'd say for actual life skills, procurement's going to be a lot less of a skill tree than a traditional life skill, but there will be some depth there.
Okay. And then that was my other thing, is you're only allowed to like choose one, or can you like mix and match as you go?
You can learn all of them if you want. For those of
Okay.
you that heard my cat, she was meowing at me and I tapped her and she went crazy. But you'll be able to do all of it. The only thing that is stopping you is time, right? There's, you reaching certain levels in one skill won't prevent you from getting levels in another.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That was all that I had.
Sweet. All right, I'm gonna do I Am Giant, and then we're gonna go wine, 419, and then buttermilk. We'll try to catch up here. All right, I'm Giant. You're up.
It's not really related, but it's been bugging me for a while. I want to know.
Sure.
Subclasses.
There aren't classes, so subclasses can't be defined. Your class is whatever you make it. If you want to be an archer that knows magic, so you're constantly flinging magic arrows or fire arrows, go for it, right? If you want to be a spell sword and you want to know magic and swordplay, you can do it. If you want to be a blacksmith that is also a cook, that is also a farmer, no one's stopping you. If you want to do it all yourself, you can. But
Okay,
there's
that's
not
great.
really there's no class definition.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I wanted to know.
Awesome. All right, Juan, you're up.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. Hello and welcome.
Hey, what's up? So I've got two questions, and the first one is, what are y'all anticipating in terms of like combating grinding for any of the aspects that y'all mentioned so far? Like specific for fighting, I go defeat like 1,000 level 1 monsters. Like, it's not going to give me great ratings, right?
Sure. Good question. So of course we're going to use an exponential EXP curve, just like any progression game. I think the real plan that we have for combating fighting is making the combat actually enjoyable. With any MMO game, you have like really lackluster combat or simple skill presses, and our mentality is if we can make combat enjoyable and diverse enough to where it is a fun experience on its own, then it won't feel like grinding. But we're still going to have an exponential XP curve, so it's not this big like level 1 grind fest.
Okay, and then second question was, I hopped in late also, so I don't know if it's been answered or not, but like what big things are you looking at in terms of like what's any update that you can provide, and then what do you see as challenges moving forward?
So right now, we have finally got a working framework in place, and that's very much thanks to the great advice over at the former Zenith and the current Eldrimore teams. Right now, we're currently working on getting those life skills out, and I think our current set of progress is moving forward. We want to get showcases out for cooking, for alchemy, for fishing, for crafting, and then from there we move to a Kickstarter. Like our goal was, we're still on track for that, which is really great. But once that starts moving, and assuming we hit our Kickstarter goal, then we're on to multiplayer, and we start building from the ground up for networking. We start to see early tests for that.
A lot. I actually have a third question. In terms of vacancies, what do you see that in, will that equate to any kind of like debuffs or anything like that?
Vacancies in what capacity?
Well, like time frames, like I don't log on for,
Oh, sure.
however long. Will I lose skills in like fighting? Like I'm less sharp. I don't know how to cook as well, blacksmith as well.
I think we might introduce a rust mechanic, but it won't actually detract your literal skill values. You shouldn't go back, but I guess rolling back into the flow of things is not a bad part of the gameplay loop. It'll give you a chance to get more reaccustomed. So we're considering like temporary debuffs, but nothing that'll actually change your skill values.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, 419, you're up.
So I have a few questions on about various of things. So the first one is, as you said with the fishing, is that it's gonna like there's gonna be quality fish, like better fish that you can get, and then those will give better stats. Will you be able to sell them to like people that are cooking, and they'll be able to make a dish that's even better because of the enhanced fish?
Yes.
Ooh, that's gonna be nice. So then trading between those two would be really cool. Um, Another question was, will there be big raids like because will there be big raids that will require having like guild like blacksmithings or like alchemists and stuff like that to help resupply people as they go through this dungeon, perhaps.
I don't know about traditional raids involving blacksmiths, but what I do want to experiment a lot with is the idea of a continuous warfare. And so it's very possible that people have to go to the front lines to keep off this, army of monsters for narrative reasons is constantly attacking Solara, which I'll get into later. But you might very well have blacksmiths turn into field blacksmiths and go on the front lines to help maintain weapons real time. Same thing with cooks and alchemists. Same thing with crafters. So there's definitely a lot of potential there. We are experimenting with a lot of that. Now, is there ever going to be a raid where you're going to want to bring a blacksmith with you into a dangerous area? Maybe not, but we don't know yet. We'll see.
All right, cool. That's interesting. Another one was like you talked about us being able to like just buy buildings. So the two things with those is like, will we own like when we get a building to like open up a shop or to claim as a house? Will there be other people that be able to buy the same place, and then it'll be like a little selection you can go through to select which place you want to go to?
No. So what's probably going to happen, at least how we have it drafted out right now, is you'll be able to buy a plot, and that plot is yours. But if you are inactive for a certain period of time, you lose that plot. So let's say that you're not around for like a whole 2 months or something. You can lose that plot. You'll be refunded for the plot, and then it becomes open to the market again. Similar to housing in Final Fantasy. And we'll probably do the same thing for houses, or alternatively, we'll have stacked ones so your shop can double as your home. So we can, double instantiate stuff like that. We're also probably going to have a rent system where you have to pay a certain amount every month just to keep your shop running. That way, you can't just have a plot and then do nothing with it and hold it from someone who will.
Gotcha. Okay. And then another question is like when you own the shop, will you be able to customize it even like a little bit, like moving around furniture, like setting up how you would want, or will there be custom presets for certain areas?
We don't know yet. Ideally, there is customization. If we instantiate building interiors out, it's probably more feasible, but we don't know if that's the route that we're taking yet. But as
Okay.
soon as we know, you will know.
Okay. And then hold on, sorry.
You're
Going blinked there for a moment. So as you said, that we'll be able to place down campsites and stuff like that that will have like equipment for it. But will there be specialized equipment depending on what you go into? Like for like alchemists, there'll be more alchemy stuff so you can craft stuff on the go, or will it always be the same?
Take a step back and consider this. So you and your team goes to set up a camp. I have blacksmithing camp equipment. I can set up my blacksmithing camp equipment in the camp. But if I don't bring it with me, then nobody has it, right? They might have very small access to things like tools that they can sharpen their weapons with, but they won't have my blacksmithing stuff, or they won't have their alchemy stuff, right? So it really just depends on who's at the camp and what they have access to. That makes the camp. It's not a camp that that'll have all these different things that you can choose from. Your camp will be dependent on what you are and what you have.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because that would bring it a lot then, because then a lot of people, if they're out, they can't just like immediately fix their stuff and continue, because then that would, and that's why I was wondering there.
And so the goal here is to like, for example, you're always going to get the best sharpness going to a blacksmith in town, but you can still get away with sharpening your own weapon in camp. Or if you have a blacksmith in your party that has those tools, he can do it and it will be better than if you did it yourself. Or if you're skilled in blacksmithing, you can do it yourself. Point being, there's a specialization there.
Thank you. I think that'll be all my questions then.
Okay. All right, Buttermilk, you're up.
Again.
Welcome back.
All right, so few more questions. I know, kind of stupid, but how
That's okay.
will rewards work in player-based areas compared to like NPCs? Is it like I know NPCs will probably be like a set thing, but let's see, like, all right, if I want to learn new spells, would I be able to be rewarded with that after completing a contract or something?
No. So every skill will have a point of entry, but it will come down to you doing that thing, right? So let's take magic, for example, right? The current idea for the magic loop is you can try after being initiated and having, like, after learning how to do it from somebody or go one of these learning guilds, you can try to cast fire magic on your own. Is it going to be very strong? No. but you can do it, and then you can continue to do it to level up. But there won't be anything that you have to do to unlock that per se. Now, whenever it comes to like different type of magics, yeah, you'll probably start off on something like fire. But in terms of actually learning skills, the entry will be less of a quest that gives you access and more of an entry point, whether it be you buy your first set of blacksmithing tools, or you buy a small alchemy stand so you can start practicing alchemy. That way, the means to actually get there is up to you. You don't have to go do a specific quest or anything silly. You can go do what you want to do, and then if you decide that you want to go try blacksmithing, you'll have the means to do so already because you've been fighting this whole time.
Okay, gotcha. All right. One more thing. I saw this earlier, but
Sure.
how will traveling in the air work? So, like, not exactly flying, but okay, let's take Harry Potter for example. Magic broom. Would I be able to do that, or?
Probably not. So one of the things that we really want to put focus on is that traveling and traversing in general. I mean, they're dangerous, but also you don't want to be able to relinquish that danger for nothing, especially if you can already fast travel. From a design philosophy, the idea is that you will have horses. Your horses will be able to upgrade. They'll be faster. They can do more things. And then, eventually there will be things like carts that can be driven around with inventory, which would be good for traders and delivery. And delivery is another one of those, I guess, life-ish skills. It's more of a service skill. But we want to avoid the problem of having a player just completely disconnect with the entire gameplay experience. And so there will be gliders, because I think gliders are cool and they're great for traversal. But being able to fly indiscriminately is probably not on the table.
All right, gotcha. I think that's it. Yeah, that's all I got for you.
Okay. I'm looking at the order here. We're gonna do pretty sure I need to start taking. I just need to make notes of these. What was last? So note, and then Mark. All right, Mark, you're next, and then it'll be note, and then Wibbly.
Okay, thank you. Is my mic working?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right. I have 4 questions for you, if that's fine.
Sure.
It'll be quick. All right. For blacksmithing, will there be different different alloys?
Yes.
Like, okay. Will there be different pros and cons of said alloys?
Yes.
Could you explain said?
I mean, just buffs, debuffs. Sometimes elemental attunement, right? Some alloys might be better with fire. Some alloys might be better against armored enemies. A lot of that's up in the air, but they will do different things, and they'll have different colors too. So you'll know.
Oh, okay. Okay. For question 2, you brought up crafting. What will crafting consist of?
Crafting's a little up in the air. Like I mentioned earlier, we're considering a system where you have paper guides on a table, but a lot of it is really just going to come down to what development looks like, because we won't know until we find a system that feels good.
Question 3: will cooking have long-lasting buffs, and will potions have more quick-acting but short buffs?
Yes, but cooking will be more passive while alchemy is more active, right? So you'll eat, and then you'll get like an experience gain, and you'll have higher strength and higher defense for, let's say, an hour or something or other. Whereas you can use a potion and it'll give you regeneration for, I don't know, 20 seconds, but that 20 seconds is very beneficial to you. So definitely very different sides of the same support coin there.
All right. Another one for potions. Will there be potions that are not directly offensive, such as like sticky wax you can throw onto a surface to slow down an enemy?
That's probably going to be more related to spells, if anything. Specifically because the logistics of potions that can do crazy things, but only when they're not in your backpack, leaves a lot of questions. Typically, we'll see alchemy a lot more involved in potion making, and magic refinement. More so than in-game consumables or in-combat consumables. That'll be more of a crafting thing, if anything.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Note, you're up. By the way, Webley's question will be the last life skill question. What's up, Note?
Already, how I was just wondering, how hard is it going to be to balance between like multiple skills, like for combat life skills and all that? Like, is it gonna be easy to like balance a couple, only really one, or
Question, what do you mean by balancing?
like to level up and or like progression wise throughout like the tree, I guess, if that's the way, since you guys weren't no classes, right?
Mhm.
For like
So-
the skill tree and stuff.
So here's
Doing, like-
the logistic. So you and your only constraint is time, right? So if you want to go do combat and blacksmithing, and I only do combat, I'm probably going to level up combat twice as faster than you because I'm spending all of my time in combat, and you're spending half of your time doing that, right?
Okay.
Pretty simple stuff. It's pretty typical with every MMO. That being said, there's a catch, right? So remember the core skills that I talked about earlier about how you have base strength, and base agility, and certain things like awareness and all of that. Well, the good news is that whenever you do certain skills and you level them up, you also level up core skills, and those can also affect the way that you perform other skills, right? So let's say that I go do combat, right? And
Mhm.
I'm this just beastly sword fighter, and I've killed it up until level, I don't know, 70 or whatever. We'll just put a number out in the air. If I
Yeah.
go do blacksmithing, I'm gonna be a better blacksmith as someone who has not done combat, even if neither of us have done no blacksmithing. Why? Because my core strength level is higher, and as such, I can perform blacksmithing more efficiently, or I can use different tools, or it's not as heavy to pick up a hammer or to pick up certain things, right? I will have a leg up
Okay.
from someone who
there's gonna
hasn't
be
done those
weight
things.
and all that. Okay. Okay.
Now, a lot of it really is just going to come down to what you pour time into, right? So,
Mhm.
just as with any experience, if I do combat twice as long as you do, I'm going to be twice as good at combat as you, right? It's just, there's no way around it. It's a time sink.
Yeah.
The only thing stopping you from learning anything is time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was really it on the life skills.
Awesome. All right, Webley, you're up. I know you've been waiting.
Okay, I guess I just have like three just small questions.
Sure.
One, will there be like a max level for skills, or will it be just
There's
like beyond?
there's gonna have to be, mainly because the skill levels are also tied with things that those life skills can do. Like, you know, the higher your blacksmithing level, the more things you can smith, or the higher your combat level, the more skills you can do. Now, I don't know exactly what the updating pipeline will be like. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be very akin to Final Fantasy, where whenever they have a major content update, they add pretty much 10 levels to every single um, combat skill and life skill. That's probably the most reasonable thing that'll happen. But until we know what that max looks like, it's kind of hard to tell. But there will be a max. There will be a limit.
All right. Second question: will there be like level rewards, as in like, oh, you gained a level, congrats, you get 15 coins or something like that?
Probably not. Only because the main goal for the experience is that what you're doing should be so enjoyable that you don't have to feel like you're grinding for rewards, right? If your only incentive to make a sword in this game is to get 15 coins by the end of it, then we as developers and designers have failed somewhere across the way, right? All those things should come naturally. And the economy should be so invested that you don't get money for just doing things whenever you already will get money from combat or from smithing. You know, those things will come naturally, so we don't want to stack that and have inflation build through a large mass of players.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last question. Will there be like farming? Like, let's say I want to be a farmer. Could I do that?
I mentioned this earlier. Yes, but we don't know what it's going to look like yet because we don't know what plots are going to look like yet.
That's all.
Awesome. All right, so that was our last life skill question. We're going to move on because we are 30 minutes over. We're going to go ahead and move on to multiplayer. So if you guys have any questions specifically relating to multiplayer, whether it be multiplayer systems, parties, guilds, events, that kind of stuff, now is the time. Spooky, go ahead.
I lied. I have two actually.
Okay.
So first one being, will there be any sort of like kind of private servers almost?
No.
What'd
And
you
the
say?
reason that I say no, and the reason that I jump on that is because a player economy in a private server is a bombshell waiting to fail. It's the same reason that a player economy can't ever work in a current day township server. It's because there's nobody to actually circulate that economy. And also, it closes a lot of doors for the gameplay experience. And also, it kind of tears the experience for players who use private servers as a mean to blow through content. I just don't see it happening. Ideally, if we were making a private server game, we wouldn't have a subscription model because that'd be really shisty. The only reason that we do have it is so we can maintain official servers that are very in depth.
Okay, and then adding on to that, so will there be any sort of like maybe say a blocking feature in case there's like a toxic player who keeps spawn camping or anything like that?
Yes, there will be features so you can block social interactions with other members. It's a core safety feature of any multiplayer experience, but also there will be guidelines that players do have to follow by, and game masters, like in any other game, will make sure that they're held, right? If someone is being a piece of shit to another player, harassing them through messages or just overall being like not conducive to any kind of good experience, then we will step in because there are guidelines that we want to uphold so that experience stays consistent for everyone, or at least the people that are actually willing to engage with it.
All right, that makes sense. And then there we go. Okay. So with guilds, because I assume there will be guilds. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Will there be any sort of like guild wars, like two guilds just completely going at it together, or not together,
We don't
against each other?
We don't know yet. If we did, it'd probably be under the narrative guise of a military exercise, but short answer, we don't know yet because we don't know what PvP is going to look like yet.
Okay. Yeah. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Kat, you're up.
Hello. Oh, is it letting me
I-
speak? Sick. Okay,
Yeah, you sound good.
perfect. I wanted to bring this up because someone else mentioned this in the chat, and I thought it was really funny, but also really interesting.
Okay.
Someone asked if we were gonna have weather, and I explained that we will be having weather. And they asked, "Will I need to get insurance for my property if damages were to happen? And can players be insurance agents in Asteria?"
No and no. I
Damn.
spent months doing life insurance, and it was the
In real
worst.
life, in real life.
In real life, and it was the worst. The
They're
worst.
very
The
upset, by
worst.
the way.
The worst months of my life. Okay, insurance agents are scammers. Okay.
He knows he was one. I'm kidding,
Will there
guys.
be
He didn't
buffs,
scam
debuffs?
anyone. That's why he was a bad insurance agent.
Okay, since we're on the topic of on weather, Coast just asked will there be buffs or debuffs based on weather, and yes, there will be. Weather will have an effect on enemies, on you as a player. So
Jaquavia said
look
he's
out for
pulling
that.
his support because of that answer.
That's okay. I'm just gonna ban him.
Oh, damn. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to ask that because I thought it was really funny, and also I wanted your expertise on that.
All right, thank you.
All right, no problem. Bye.
All right, Chance, you're up, or Chase. Chase is tech.
Yeah, all good. Everyone gets my name wrong. I've got 3 questions. I'm just gonna ask the most basic one. How many people just per server, like just per lobby?
We're gonna make that as high as we can. Ideally, we want to shoot for at least 300. That's kind of I think a reasonable goal at this point. And for those of you that don't know why, it's because a player in VR counts as 3 players. A player in VR with full body tracking counts as 6 players. And don't even get me started on finger tracking. So we're kind of shooting for that 300 mark as a goal. And if we build the game out exactly how we want and there's room to increase that number, then we absolutely will. But we'll see what that looks like.
Love that. That's sick. Second question. How will physics work with other players? So with combat and that, you know.
So the thing about combat physics is that we probably won't see a lot of physics with enemies because there's just not a potential for it whenever it comes to networking, right? If one enemy if they're completely physical, like a blade and sorcery enemy, right? Then that person or that enemy has to be updated per bone, per rotation, for every player, which is a technical nightmare, right? So I think that a lot of our combat is going to be not necessarily non-physical, because it'll be physical in the sense that you're interacting with other players in the environment. But whenever you actually look at combat as a whole, you're probably not going to see physical enemies in the traditional sense. That's the same reason that Blade and Sorcery and Bone Lab don't have 300 player lobbies.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just the third one, just a simple one. Will we be able to like customize like how we look, and like will we be able to see it on other players too?
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes. Lots of customizations. The good thing about customization is that player customization is it's not hard to implement variety, as you know, whenever you have a theme and a consistent set of conventions down. And so what we want to do as soon as we have that, we just want to go to town with ways that players can make themselves unique. Because there's so much storytelling potential in an experience like this, and we want to make sure that it's individual to the player.
Awesome. Cheers for that.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I am Giant Europe.
Give me a sec.
You're good.
I had it in the back of my mind, and right as I started doing something, I forgot.
If you want, I can take
come
another
back to me.
question, and I'll get put your hand back up, and I'll get you right after this one. All right, Wine, you're up. You're also muted, by the way.
Yeah, very cool. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So I've got 2 questions that are kind of life skills, but mostly multiplayer.
Okay.
So choosing your mentor, will their level affect the amount of experience that you get out of them mentoring you?
I'm very doubtful. I think that the main goal of a mentor is to really guide new players in the right direction, and I think that having the players work through those experiences and getting the experience on themselves or for themselves is better than it being inherited from a mentor. I think all new players will have experience bonuses for new things if they have a mentor, but it'll probably be consistent for everyone.
Okay, and then second question, so looking at like guilds as well as like, I don't want to say permanent parties, but parties that you use like very often,
Sure.
will there be any buffs or like extra incentives to go with the same like veteran party rather than just like getting a new one every single time?
Yes, friendship levels. As you work with different players over certain periods of times, you'll develop a friendship statistic with them, which means that you'll get various buffs whenever you operate with that person specifically. Same goes for groups.
Awesome. Will that work specifically toward like their specialty? Like if it's a medic or what's like another one, like a not a healer, somebody who uses magic, like it helps their magic out specifically.
Yeah, we'll do our best to make it varied. The easiest way to set up stuff for that is for things that can be unilaterally applied, like health buffs. But in the lieu of life skills, it would 100% make sense for us to have buffs for things like being able to make weapons sharper if you're doing them for your buddies, or food having better buffs or time constraints if it's done by someone that you play with a lot. So it's something we're looking into.
Okay, awesome. That was all I had.
Awesome. All right, Giant, I'm gonna give you another chance to answer your question, and then Nature's gonna jump in.
My question is, parties be like will stats be up? Will like buffs be given if you have a certain amount of players of a certain type of skill in a party?
You're kind of cutting out. I think I might need you to clarify on this one.
What I mean is like if you have a bunch of healers or fighters or tanks, whatever, would you get a buff on that skill?
Probably not.
Okay, so I want to know.
I'd say probably not. Actually, I'd be willing to say that it's more likely based on the narrative of how magic works in this world. If you have a bunch of magic people in a party, they'll probably all be a little bit less effective.
So
And I'll explain why when we go into the lore of why magic works on a scientific level. But yeah.
So less party members with magic would be better.
Yeah, if you have one person that runs magic, that will be the most effective in a party. Maybe two, depending on the type of magic that they have. Like if one is focusing offensive and one is focusing support and healing, there's a lot of possibilities there. But if you have 4 people in a party that are all using fire magic, probably not going to be as good as if one person does it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, Nature, you've been waiting. You're up. For Spooky, because I see the conversation you guys are having, I really do urge you to check the thread that we have if someone wants to link that. But yeah.
Hey, Star.
Hey, what's up?
So there's going to be nodes and stuff, right, for like materials and all that.
Yes.
Okay. For the
It'll probably
multiplayer
be
aspect of
more.
that.
So we're actually working on a system, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're working on a
That's
system
fine.
to where nodes are procedurally built. So it's not like you're going to go to the same place and get a piece of iron every time. What will happen is based on certain conditions, they can pop up in not specific locations, but any locations that meet that requirement, right? So it's not going to be this thing where you have a node route that you go along.
Okay. That's good to know too. Thank you. But also, when someone mines that node, can someone come up behind them and grab the node as well, or do they have to wait?
Node gone.
Sorry?
Node is gone. It disappears.
Node is gone. Okay. So it's more along the lines of like kind of classic WoW-esque, where that node gets mined, it's gone, you have to wait.
Right. And so
Okay.
I know that there are obvious concerns about like scarcity. One of those things that we want to look at as we continue to go into like play testing is to see what is and isn't just overdone, and then we can see, especially for like spawn rates or for generation chances, like what do we have to pull back? What can we push forward? How can we adjust the economy to make it more sustainable so it's not like there's resources that are just blown out for scarcity? So those are things that we're all talking through right now.
I think there's like a I can't remember which game I was playing, but there was one where it would stay for a few seconds after the fact of one person mining it, and then the next person could come up and grab it. But the only issue with that is multi-boxers are a thing, and all of their multi-box could mine at the same time. So I don't know if that would be a good solution or not.
Yeah, we probably won't take that approach.
Yeah.
We
Just 'cause
want
of the multi-box.
we want there to just be a big immersion factor, right? So if you see like a node per se, or you see a crystal, if you mine that crystal and break it out and grab it, it's yours, right? And then there's
Yeah,
no crystal
okay.
there anymore, so no one can mine it. And we're hoping to offset that with like spawn rate. I think that there's definitely, with the system that we're trying to build, I think it's going to be a lot better than having a node that is replenished over time.
Oh, and for the area, will the spawn rate scale with the amount of people in that area?
No.
Or no?
But it will
Okay.
scale depending on other conditions like weather or season.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you, man.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Jaquavius, you're up.
Okay, so one of my big concerns with this game is that there's going to be a lot of toxic people, and how do you plan on dealing with that? I know Kat in chat said something about the stocks of shame, but how would you deal with the reporting system?
So the good thing about having sustained servers means that we can have we can just have a continuous, like, I guess, circulation of player contact. So if there needs to be a report that is made, someone can report, and then one of our GMs can look into it and then take action, right? And that is on top of the social measures that everyone will have, which is being able to block people or hide them entirely, for your own sanity. Whenever it comes to actual toxicity, I know that we joked about the whole, I guess, player. Like, we joked about the whole shame thing where we put someone in a cage in the middle of town and let people buy tomatoes to throw at them. Will we actually be doing that? Probably not, because the mentality that we'll have, or that we do have, is that we want to either remove people outright because we don't want them in the space because they are, going strictly against our guidelines, and they're causing a danger or a harm to other players, or we want to teach them to be better so they can continue to engage with our community, right? Retention is a priority, and abstainment as a last resort. But we want to make sure that we are circulating a healthy community, because one of the problems that MMOs do have, especially VR MMOs, is keeping player base, right? Now, that's not to say that we will sacrifice a safe community for a higher player base, but it is important that we do things the right way. And so that's where that mentality is.
All right, another question.
Sure.
Will there be systems put in place to stop higher level people from going around and like bullying the lower levels? Like, I know you said something about PvP. Like, will there be systems in place to prevent that from happening?
Yeah, if we actually end up getting PvP fully blown, like we've talked about, then it'll be opt-in, right? You can't just go up and kill somebody. And there will be probably some parameters on what is and isn't acceptable. You can't just walk up and kill random people. Even if they do have PvP enabled, if you're a bunch of levels over them. We've considered all of this. Now, the big thing that I will say is we won't know until playtesting, because we can make a bunch of edge cases, but we won't know what those edge cases actually are until we playtest and we see what people do. And then as we, whenever we release, as we watch the player base in the community and see what they do, we can adjust those things as well. Even to the point of like reverting deaths for certain players, just to make sure that they don't feel like they were gypped over something outside of, outside of their control.
Interesting. All right, that's all I had. Thank
Awesome. All right, Spooky, you were up.
All right. Two things. So, first thing, will there be some sort of like a town community board where people can do like a poster that says looking for work, or just looking just in general for anything?
It's possible, but I think what is more likely is because everyone like exists and operates from a few major spaces like a main town, and with how personal everything is, instead of going to sign up on a quest board, go find somebody to do it, right? You're surrounded by people in town. So like if I wanted to, I don't know, if I wanted like 10 arrows, I wouldn't put on a quest board, hey, can I get 10 arrows? I'd go to the blacksmith that's right in front of me and go, hey, can you make me arrows, right? And if they can, then boom. Now, is that to say that we won't entertain a quest board idea? No, it's something that we want to look into and see if it's feasible. But if we do our economy and direct player interaction right, it might not be needed at all. Again, we won't know until playtesting and people give feedback, but yeah.
Yeah, I just meant kind of in the context of like, say someone needed like an actual full-on like team of people to do something.
Okay.
It just could be easier to like looking for 4 people with these stats, something like that. But
Right. I get what you're saying. Yeah, we'll definitely look into some implementations there. I know that one of the big challenges is having a system that allows groups of players to engage with something like that without it being a point and click menu where you click a button and then suddenly you have a quest appended to you, which kind of is a big immersion breaker. But we will get back on that.
All right, yeah, and then final thing, just will the I don't know if it's gonna be stocks or like any just reporting or that some sort of thing. Will that be like specifically menu report player based, or will it be like active moderators in game?
There will be menus to report players, but there will be moderators in game. It'll be
Okay.
both.
Alright.
And that way, because I don't know if you guys know this, I want to play this game. Okay, I'm not gonna not play this game. So I'm gonna be in servers, and I know that the people that are helping me work on the game will as well. So we will be in game. What'll probably happen, which is pretty common for like short contact moderation, is we'll get reports real time in game too. So if something needs to happen, then we can look into it.
Okay.
We'll probably also have a system for moderators to be able to turn off their like report receiving for certain hours. That way there's so there's some separation so they can actually play the game instead of just being pulled to reports all the time.
Yeah.
But we've considered all that.
Okay. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. I think so hard to. Okay. Zach, one cat. I'm trying. Was it cat next? I think it might be cat next. Maybe possibly. But I don't know. I'm going to assume with bated breath that it's cat. Cat, you're up.
Hello, Star, light of my life. I'd like to circle back on something. The stocks of shame. All right.
Sure.
I know that you were quick to say that that might not actually happen, but hear me out. Because you know how fond I am of them. I feel like we could possibly, maybe, at your discretion, implement some kind of system in which the players that do have like negative, what's it called? Not aura, but aura for lack of a better term. Reputation. Thank God. Who have like negative reputation, right? And it's reputation based. If the guards or the moderators of the game catch them for something like pickpocketing, could it be like a limited time thing, all in good fun, for the stocks of shame? If it's a legit like rule break, then yeah, absolutely they need to be kicked, and that needs to be
That's not a bad idea. We'll consider it. I'll
Also-
I'll talk to Now and Tuned about it.
perfect. Also, Buttermilk Jesus just asked if we could have investments in the game.
No. Oh my god, no. Just go invest in stocks in real life.
Don't do that, not right now. Anyways, all right, love you guys. Thank you for answering that.
All right, Wine, you're up next.
I'm gonna ask it every time. Can you hear me?
What's up?
All right, so it might be a little bit early to be asking questions like this, but interactions with social media and people streaming and stuff like that, for both parties, both like the people who are trying to stream, if that's something that you're going to allow, and the people who don't want to be on camera or in a YouTube video or some shit like that, how is that going to be handled?
I think there's just kind of an expectation whenever you play an online game that you could be recorded, right? Now, as with any social experience, if you want to block someone and have them not see you, you can do that. But in a virtual space, you can't ever really expect, or you can't actually regulate whether or not you will be recorded. I mean, similar to every other online game ever. So I don't think that that's something that will be entertaining because there are crazy logistics issues there whenever the right answer is just, if you don't want to be recorded by someone, block that person and they can't see you anymore or hear you, So there's that.
That's true. Is that something that's going to be allowed in general, of just like, you're allowed to stream the game, you're allowed to do whatever?
Yeah, we actually are looking into, like, similar to TAVR where there's a bunch of different camera settings. We're actually looking into building tools specifically for content creators, for people who want to record in streams, just so they have better means to do so.
Okay, cool. That was it for that one.
Awesome. All right, it's going to be Giant, and then Zach. What's up, Giant?
Player messaging.
What's up?
If you want to message someone, would there be a way to do that? Would be a function?
Yes, you will physically, you won't physically, it won't be actual writing, but you'll be able to write a note, you'll be able to roll it up and toss it in the air, and a bird or a crow will take it to its destination. You won't
Okay,
be able
that's
to instant
nice.
message people. It'll be something that is received that they have to open and read.
That's nice. That's all I wanted to
Anything
ask.
else? Okay. All right, Zach, you're up. Oh, hold on. Before we do anything, for those of you asking about lighting equipment like torches and lanterns cause a performance hit, the answer is no. It is a performance hit whenever you have like large groups rendering at the same time of real-time lighting, but real-time lighting is not going to be something that's rendered through the server's actions. It's going to be something that's turned on through the server's action and then rendered client side. So now has it on the money. Same thing as if a non-light position was tracked. Anyway, Zach, you're up.
Hi, you hear me?
Hey, yeah.
Sorry, I'm at work at the moment. I
No,
have
you're
a
good.
question. Is there going to be like a spell thing for if you're trying to find friends, like you can cast a spell or something to know where the general location, or is that still going to be going off last year? You got to message each other and meet up somewhere, or is there going to be a spell or something?
It'll probably be relinquished to an item and not a spell. That way it can be a lot more accessible, right? It's not like you have to know magic to be able to do it. It's something that you can just buy somewhere for cheap, probably. It'll probably give you like a general direction. So like what I imagine is I like assign a we'll call it a I don't know, we'll call it a location potion just for now. And I drink it and then I see the world around me go dark and then a bright neon line is just shot from me towards the direction of where that player is. And if they're close enough I can even see their silhouette, right? So I know exactly where they're at. And it can be surrounded by silhouettes of certain cities, so you can have an exact or a relatively exact idea of where they're at. And if they're out in the wild, then at least you'll have a general direction and you can go look for them.
And well, they're going on to left as well. You could do that to find players you know and don't know, or just players you know.
Just players you know.
Would you be able to like have ones where you could set it to your location and then people can buy them? Like if you're a blacksmith and you move locations, they could find you or something like that.
You
If
know,
you don't have
we haven't considered it, but that's a really cool idea. I think what we might do if we take an approach like that is instead of it being an item that you buy that's assigned, if you have an ad somewhere, you can interact with the ad and it'll show you a path to where that person's shop is. I think that's a cool idea. We'll mark it down. We haven't considered it, but we will look into it.
I appreciate your help. That just came up to thought a little bit ago. I haven't been able to listen to a lot of it because the audio keeps cutting out for some reason.
Sure.
I'm guessing my phone battery is low or something. I don't know.
That's
I
okay.
haven't been
It's
able
I
to-
mean Discord's been
I
acted up,
haven't-
so it's all good.
the English. God dang. That's about all I had to ask. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. All right, I'm pretty sure it was Spooky and then Demi and then Friday. I'm pretty sure. Also, Now asked at some point who was first. Who was first? Oh, now okay, it was. Thank you, Jester. You're a godsend. All right, now get in here.
Hi.
Hello now.
I was listening and I realized I had no clue about this. What are the ideas regarding like heads up display or health bars, mana bars? Because there's a lot of titles that'll shy away from those in favor of other ways of displaying your health, like the Call of Duty, the fucking gem
Sure.
splatter or whatever.
So what we want to do is kind of have like there's gonna have to be a balance between immersion and clarity. And so what'll probably happen is if you remember the old Blade and Sorcery menus where you had like on your wrist you had very clear indicators of how much health you had, how much focus you had, what your mana looked like.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good example of something we're going for, because
Mhm.
immersion's a big goal here, but there also should be clarity in some capacity, and we'll probably make a lot of those things optional for players who want something a little bit less informative. Like I know that I would, but a lot of it's going to be up to like options that people can set.
Gotcha.
We'll probably make a
That's-
good few of them. I'm sure we'll have fun experimenting with them.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's all I wanted to ask.
Awesome. All right, Spooky, you're up.
All right. So for things just like relating to messages, advertisements, all that, how will the like actual writing system of the messages work? Will it be like some sort of like pen where you actually have to write what you want, or will it just be keyboard?
Probably a pen with letter recognition. I mean, we'll probably create multiple options for it. I know that there are some people who absolutely hate VR keyboards, myself included, even if you have like magnetized laser pointers. And I know some people who hate the idea of writing, but we'll probably have multiple options just for preference and accessibility's sake. But yes, I like the idea of writing. I love it a lot. I love the idea of signing your name on a line of a quest to accept that quest instead of just pressing a button. There's definitely a lot of potential there that we want to experiment with.
All right, and then is voice recognition like possible way to write?
Probably not. There's a lot that goes into I guess omni-notational voice notation, right? So it's not like spells where you say something and it could be one of 8 spells and an algorithm has to determine which one is closest. Instead, it has to transcribe you in real time, which is very resource heavy. And for security reasons, we can't exactly have that run on client, which means it have to run on server, which presents a lot of logistics issues. So I want to say no for now, but we'll see.
All right, and then another thing with just like ads and messages and stuff. If saying it was like moderated heavily, of course, is
Right.
there a possibility of being able to have not even everyone, just have specific players with a good and solid reputation be able to post like almost import images onto their ads if it's accepted by like through moderation?
Maybe. I don't know if it'll be for ads. If we have any sort of system that allows players to like upload certain images or art, it would probably be for things like guilds. And of course, they'd have to go through moderation. But I don't see
Yeah.
it being for things like ads because the point of an ad is to get you away from the ad and into the place that it's trying to attract you to. So,
It's
you know,
yeah, it was just kind of because of the whole thing that I was talking with some people earlier about how like the potential to be able to make your own posters for ads. So like that's kind of where that comes from.
we'll probably have posters be customizable. But I don't know if it's going to be personalized to that extent.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Demi, you were up. Let's get you in here.
So, in regards to the whole writing and communicating through that method,
Sure.
would there be something in place for people who struggle with speaking? Because I know the game heavily focuses on player communication,
Sure.
and having the means to communicate when you can't necessarily speak might be a turnoff for people, basically,
Right.
for the game.
So, in terms of messaging, like I mentioned earlier, we'll have multiple options. Either you can actually write or there will be a keyboard. There's nothing in game that requires you to speak, and from a direct communication, we will provide options for that, whether it be being able to write in chat bubbles above your head or just being able to type them in with a VR keyboard, right? That's super easy to implement, and it's not something that I'm really worried about from a technical standpoint. It's super easy to do. The only thing that would require voice in Asteria is magic, but you don't have to use voice. You can draw runes instead. Those are one and the same, and they don't provide advantages over the other. So I don't see an accessibility concern there. I think that we have those
Alright.
bases covered, and if we don't, then we can. Someone will tell us, and then we can go from there.
All right. Thank you.
Of course. All right, Friday, you were up.
Okay. Hello. I've got just 4 questions.
Sure.
So yeah, the first one I think is an interesting one. You'll obviously be playing the game yourself, and you're the lead developer, and alongside other developers. So, what would you say is the part of the game that you're most looking forward to playing?
God, I can't wait to fight in groups. It's gonna be
Okay.
so cool. I I remember very early on what it would be if we like broke past the base, like it's an MMO but also in VR. The whole like I know that we talked about the quote unquote military aspect, but one of the main arcs of the game is that there is an active war happening around you. Um, between all the people playing the game and a bunch of different monsters. Um,
Okay.
and the idea that I can go out and get in the fight with my buddies and go mess up some monsters and go fight the good fight and then have stories to tell about it, so exciting. I can't wait to be in there with all of my buddies.
Okay. That's a good answer. Um, I haven't been here the whole time, so sorry if I'm asking repeated questions. In what ways are you trying to do something that like no other VR RPG has done? Not even just like from like a technical standpoint, but like in like the social sense of as if like what can you do with the other people around you?
I think that VR has always been, or not VR, but I think MMOs have always been kind of lacking in the level of social interaction that players can have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that there are games that do it very well. I love Final Fantasy. I think it's a great game. But I think that the social aspect should be more than just sitting in a tavern and talking to each other, right? It should be embedded into everything that the player does. And VR as a medium is specifically the best for immersion. It is supposed to be an immersive medium. That is the point. And so whenever you look at what a VR MMO could be, you take those social aspects and you make them immersive. The goal is to make it to where your gameplay loop interacts with every other gameplay loop. And the idea for once is that combat isn't just the main gameplay loop. There are a bunch of main gameplay loops that interact with each other, right? So I think that whenever it comes to Asteria specifically, we want to build a social economy more than just a money economy. That allows all of these gameplay loops to interact in really cool and meaningful ways. And at the end of the day, every player will go home having a new story to share with friends.
Okay, perfect. And this flows in so well to my third question is is the goal with like the economy, I guess, like the social economy to be that like your reputation and your trust with certain players to be as powerful for you financially as it would be as your in-game stats. So like for example, if I have a really good reputation as being a great blacksmith, I can make just as much money or more as someone who's an equally good adventurer and fighter.
Yes, we want to provide balance. Now, the really weird part about setting up an economy in this fashion is understanding where consistency lies. And what I mean by that is um, you as a blacksmith make money by selling stuff, right? How do I, as a fighter, get money? Is it by killing monsters? Well, it depends on what our currency is. If it's some like star dust related chips or shards or something like that, then maybe. But if it's gold, then probably not. And so, um, I guess the real, I guess the real answer that I give you right now is, we want to balance everything so there's potential in every loop. But ideally, um, and the end goal for a good economy is that it's not necessarily that they all have the same potential, but they all have great potential in different things and they all complement each other. A blacksmith is probably going to be better at making money than a fighter, is. That doesn't mean that I can't go make money helping people like blacksmiths, right? That's where that circle comes from.
Exactly.
So, and a lot of it's going to come from play testing too. I know that a very large phase is going to be a beta phase where we have a bunch of people play and we study the economy and we study how people interact with each other. So, that's definitely a big thing. But I think that there's definitely a lot more value in seeing what each individual life skill can provide for the others, and not all of them being, I guess, the same off for themselves.
Okay. So in the sense of like I guess like a real world example would be like there are plumbers, but unless there's a broken pipe, there's no real work there. Same as in the game, a blacksmith will need materials, and if they can't get them themselves, they can hire a fighter or an adventurer to go get it for them.
And those fighters and adventurers make money, or they take the materials that they've gotten during fights and sell them directly to shops. So I think I think the economy will affect every life skill in some way, shape, or form because it's all material based as opposed to currency based. But we'll
Gotcha.
see.
I love that, by the way.
I think once we get into beta and we see what players do and how they grow the economy and work with each other, I think we'll have a lot more insight on how we want to move forward.
Okay. And one quick add-on to that would be, will there be some type of system, like for example, if the economy is based on materials, is there going to be systems in place to stop someone from hoarding a large amount of a material, or are there still going to be ways for everyone to have equal access to all the materials, even if it's a super hard material? There can still be someone who's really high level and go get it, or are there going to be some things that some people just no matter what will have and others can't have?
I think there is a lot of potential for discussion on the topic of rarity, specifically whenever it comes to resources, because there are going to be some things that are inherently rare, whether they're hoarded or not, right? So let's talk about the signature art crystals for signature moves that I was talking about earlier. That's something that's going to be inherently rare, and not because it's hoarded, just because it's rare. There are probably going to be measures put in place to prevent resource hoarding. What will also happen is we will flush artificial scarcity hard, right?
Okay.
So if a guild has 20 million stone or whatever, and they're keeping anybody from getting any stone, I'll start selling stone from NPC shops for a gold apiece. Like that's not a fight that any hoarder will win. The idea, like I know that there is definitely like a lot of people who want to run for monopolization. Unfortunately, I don't want a player's experience to be greatly impeded on by another player's experience, especially if their idea of their experience is just having all this money and hoarding it and ripping other players off. We can circumvent those things pretty easy, right? And we can circumvent them narratively as well, right? New Knights of Asteria. I can't remember the word of it. You guys remember in Animal Crossing, whenever you have like incentives that you can set up if they do something else, like the ordinances, that's what they're called, right? Knights of Asteria ordinance is shopkeepers are incentivized, NPC shopkeepers are incentivized for selling stone for less, right? So lots of things that can kind of, I guess, even the tides, because there are bad actors and there will be bad actors in a player-run economy. It's just our job to figure out how to mitigate that fairly.
Okay. So for on the stone example, there will still be a way for me to go out and collect stone, though, despite, for
Yes.
example, okay.
The only
And,
way that you wouldn't be able to get stone is if there are like I don't know, 100 miners sitting at all the stone generation locations. But the idea is that we have a world big enough to where resources that are essential are also not just scarce. And you can go somewhere else to go get those materials.
Sorry to keep asking so much, but then that makes me
Oh, it's
ask
okay.
another thing. Will there
Sure.
be certain like events in the game or areas or times where this material is available in this location, but once it's past that time period, you can't get this material? Like, will there be rare materials in the sense of like there will be certain events or time zones and things like that for someone to obtain it?
I don't think that limited time materials are really conducive to like, I don't know, it's FOMO is what it is.
Gotcha.
I think for small things like I don't know, like event cosmetics. Yeah, you can get them now. You can't get them later, because they're part of like a celebration or an event or something, and they're cool to
Mhm.
show off. Whenever it comes to actual like tangible resources, probably not. I think what will happen is there will be resources that can spawn maybe in certain seasons. That'll be the absolute most of it. That way you can always
Okay.
get it next in-game year if you miss them.
So okay, so there's gonna be in-game Okay, that's cool.
Yes.
Okay, and my last question is, how are you guys gonna make, and if you're even planning to do it this way, to where quests don't feel like procedural or repeated, they kind of feel more personal? And is there a way to where the way that you play a quest affects the NPC's views of you in game? Like, for example, the NPC shops. Let's say I do a quest and I become like evil in the quest or whatever. Like I do something that's immoral. Will the NPCs view me differently, or is it just going to be like a repeatable, procedurally generated thing?
So the one big thing about having such a player-driven experience is that NPCs kind of naturally take a back end. There is a point where, as a player, especially when dealing with other players, there's always going to be a perception of you, right? Now, whenever it comes to actual quests, the only problem that I have with quest lines and MMOs is that they're applied unilaterally to players. So, like, take Final Fantasies for example, right? I was the savior of AOSD. I was the warrior of light. Well, guess what? Every other fucking player in Final Fantasy is the warrior of light, right? There's there's no distinction for anybody there. And so I think with the right setup, a lot of those perceptions will come from players, right? That's not to say that we're ignoring NPCs and quest lines. Of course not. We want to flesh that out as much as we can, but where
For
there'll
sure.
be
It's a player-driven economy, so yeah, it
of
makes sense.
we want it to be a player-driven experience, and so there's a level where like your titles can reflect the things that you've done and the things that you've accomplished, or the bad things that you've done, and people will see that and go, "Ugh," you know.
For sure.
Whenever someone comes in with this big flashy gold glowing title that says, Legend of Asteria or Savior of Asteria or whatever, that's something that takes notice. That's something that sparks a conversation, that starts a story. Now, whenever it comes to NPCs being procedural, I don't know if we can take that approach with such an open-ended experience. The possibilities are, I mean, quite literally endless. If
Yeah,
you
for
go out
sure.
and a bunch of goblins are camping, and you go and, I don't know, blow up that goblin camp, are you going to be barred as a war criminal? I mean, probably not. There's no way to be able to track those things, at least not with such like an experience that is so for the player.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
that being said, there's obviously we don't want the game to be boring, and we don't want the NPCs to be boring. So,
Obviously. That's yeah, I guess that's more so what I was getting, because I feel like in my personal experience with like MMORPGs, it always feels like the questing just feels very like there's no life behind it. It's just you're doing the
Right.
same things, going to here, grabbing this, going back, like
We definitely want to avoid fetch quests, by the way, unless the fetch quest has some big fight involved.
Gotcha.
Ideally, and
Okay.
something that we talked about a lot is that things like combat should be so fun that if combat is anywhere on your quest, you're having a good time. You know,
Okay. That's
like if
huge. No
if
fetch
if I
quest is
had
huge.
if I had to go do a fetch quest, but it was in Blade and Sorcery, and I got to fight a bunch of guys along the way to go get that thing, that would be a fun time. That would be an experience that I'd be worth doing. If I had to walk for 20 minutes, go grab something, and then walk 20 minutes back, I wouldn't mess
Yeah.
with it.
Okay.
So there's that.
Cool. That's really all my questions. I've said this basically every time I've came up, but I think I can speak for everyone in the audience. It doesn't matter how long you guys take to make the game, so long as you guys feel confident and happy with the product that you're releasing, we will be as well. So take your time, and I don't think anyone's putting pressure on you guys. So keep it up. I see this being a really good game.
I really appreciate you, Friday.
Yeah, no
It's good
problem.
talking
Have
to
a
you,
good
man.
day. Yeah, you too.
All right, Spooky, you're up.
All right. So I have three things. So, first things, how will like shops work? Will they be more like Township Tale, how it's just a thing you put coins in, you put what you want to sell and how much? Or will it be something more as in like customizable booths that are already pre-made and the player has to be present to make a sale?
Player will have to be present to make sales, but other than that, we don't know. A lot of it will come down to what we can reasonably accomplish, and we won't be able to know until we do life skill playtests.
All right. And then for the second question, will there be any achievements? And if there are, will there be any in-game rewards for 100%ing the game or like just getting an achievement itself?
I don't know about 100% in the game because what that looks like is kind of vague right now. But yes, there will be achievements and there will be rewards, namely in the ways of cosmetics and titles, which is a pretty popular way of doing it. So like whenever you complete certain achievements, you'll get certain titles, sometimes with special effects that you can show off. Because your player name with your title will be above your head pretty much at all times. So
All right. Yeah, that's just 100% in games is like my thing. So just
Sweet.
wanted to know. And then with like regarding servers, will there be like when you first load up the game, would you like I don't know if you're gonna do save slots, but just like you choose your character, right? And then will there be kind of how it is like with World of Warcraft where there's certain servers with different things like PvP enabled or PvP disabled? Or will it be like out of only three servers that you just randomly go into?
so it might actually be. Oh, by the way, Kostas, I know that you said that, but we can give away Patreon tiers as giveaways for free. They don't have to be funded. So don't worry about that. Also, sorry, back to what you were saying. Whenever it comes to like actual save slots, one of the things we're considering having it be server based, but we don't know yet. Just because a lot of things can change, and a dynamic between one server and another can be crazy. And also the potential gap that goes from going to one server to completely avoid the economy of another to get resources and then move that save data to another server, very bad for player economies. And so what's probably going to happen is there will be like major server groups, kind of like Final Fantasy, and then you will have a character on a server. And if you want to transfer it to another server, you can. But that'll be a whole process. You can't just do it on a whim.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem. All right, Giant, you're up. Oh, well, I said that, and then you re-asked. There you go.
I have two questions.
Okay.
Number one, I don't know if you said this already, but I'm asking. Pets. Will there be civic animals that you can like tame?
We don't know yet. Will there be pets? Maybe. We don't know about actual taming yet. It's really just going to come down to what is feasible with multiplayer tests.
Okay. And my second question is like how to interact, how you can interact with the world around you. Like, can you climb a wall or something?
Yeah, you'll be able to climb a lot of surfaces. You'll be able to pick fruit off of trees, grab handfuls of grass on the ground. You'll be able to swim in water, use the water to put out fires. I mean, immersion comes from the little things, right? And we knew that early on that there were a bunch of little things that we wanted to implement to make the world feel that much better. So you can expect real cool little bits of mechanics. I mean, everywhere, just so you feel like the world is more real.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So that's it.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Zach, you're up.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I just have one question for now that I can think of.
Sure.
How are you doing the campaign? Like, are you going to do it time based? Like, if you join in the game months after it releases, will that be a different start in the story to what it is then, or is it going to start all at the same spot whenever you join?
That's a good question, and the short answer, we don't know yet. But ideally, we form our story in a way to where it can be, like the start can be unilateral. Because ideally, the introduction for every player is that you're being introduced to this world. So, regardless of when it happens, the start of your story is going to be the same no matter what. Now, whenever it comes to like player events and player driven story, yeah, you'll probably see a little bit of a difference than if you were to join months prior. But it's not like it's going to be out of place or anything. It'll be just as if you fell into this new world at the time that you did. Because I mean that's how it works, right? If you go to a new country, it doesn't matter what happened before, you're there now. That's the start of your story. So for player stuff specifically, it'll probably be a little bit different. But your own experience will probably be the same.
But other than that, will there be any big like differences? Like, will there be different since the events and like time quests? Would certain missions give certain items that you couldn't get otherwise, or will you still be able to do those types of missions to get similar stuff?
We don't know just yet. I think if we're gonna have anything that's limited time, it'll be like cosmetics that you can get for celebrations, right? So like for launch period. Like obviously, if you join the game a year after it launches, you're not gonna be able to go back to the launch event and get the launch event necklace or whatever it is, right? Outside of that, I really don't know if we're gonna have any like any limited time things that you can get really because we don't want to do FOMO. Um, so I wouldn't worry about that too much.
There we go. That's about it. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Spooky. I know you got like 20 questions. Get up here.
All right. Sorry to ask so many questions, but so will there be any like accessibility features for people who have like controller drift, like button-based movement, or maybe just changing which joystick controls movement?
So we will allow for omnidirectional controls. Control flips aren't hard to do. Now, button-based movement, I'm very doubtful. Things like teleporting, especially, is too easily abused and is too against our gameplay loop. One of the reasons that we have life skills that are so passive and so doable from one spot, like cooking and like smithing, is so that there is a level of accessibility in action for people who do those things. If you're not comfortable with motion sickness and you're not good with moving the joystick around a lot or swinging your arms a bunch, I don't really see a lot of engagement with combat just because it's going to be very involved, you know?
Yeah, I
The
just
same way that blade and sorcery would be a giant pain in the ass if you couldn't use your arms, you know?
Yeah.
So that being said, we do want to, where it's reasonable and consistent, we want to have as many accessibility features as possible, because anyone that can reasonably engage with this experience should be able to if they want to, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have, I think, a little over a dozen people that we have kind of benched right now that specifically have different levels of accessibility problems that we can kind of cater to, and that'll give us a really good start.
hmm I just meant, yeah, just because I have like bad controller drift, both controllers, and I
Sure.
recently got a new one, so just in case anything happens, and just so happen to get both drift. It might
Yeah, in terms
be
of,
difficult.
we'll definitely make a left-handed mode. I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay. And then another thing, how will will there be any customization for like the actual HUD on the screen? Like, for example, moving around health bars, or maybe even
There's not going to be a
toggling
lot of
off?
HUD. Now toggling off, yes, but there's not going to be a lot of HUD elements. You will be able to see like an indicator of your health somewhere, and it's probably going to be on your person. It won't be floating in front of you.
Okay.
But there's not going to be any floating HUD elements or like anything that's tracked specifically to your headset, just because that is a little bit of an immersion breaker. Will we have exceptions? I'm sure for information's sake, but we'll have to find those as we go. Right now, we don't have any planned.
All right, and then final question: will there be anything of the sort of like when you're meeting a developer, you get like a title or something, like maybe like honored or like just something for meeting an important person in a game or in the game, I guess.
No, and I'll tell you
Oh,
why.
okay.
I want to play this game more than anybody that I know. There is not a single person that is less important than me when it comes to this game. There's not a single person less important than any of our developers when it comes to this game. Now, is that to say that you won't get titles for doing cool things like with people on the staff team? Sure, right? Like if I fight in the, or if you fight in the Goblin War or whatever, and I end up falling into your squad or something, then you'll probably get a a cool title for it or something, because it'd be cool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But just for meeting us, two things. One, I don't think that any of us are more important than any of you. I want to play this game. I'm making this game for me, and by extension, everybody. And then also, the other side of that is if we're going to be playing this game all the time, there's a
Yeah.
lot of titles to give out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of
I see
removes
that.
the rarity from it. So I wouldn't. I don't think I would go that far.
All right. Yeah. I've sprung another one, kind of not
Sure.
on the same topic, but just sort of because I was thinking.
That's okay.
Someone, this may have been answered, but will there be any sort of like, skill tree like crossing or even just getting every skill tree, like something connected between adventuring and blacksmithing that you can get more ore yield from a piece of ore if you have a certain blacksmithing trade, or just being able to have every skill in the game.
You'll be able to have every skill. If there are bridging, it'll be things that come naturally and aren't things that you can level up, right? So take magic and swordplay, for example. If you know fire magic and you are good with swords, you can set your own sword on fire at a cost of mana. You know, that is something that it's called emergent, right? That's something that can happen just by design of the systems that we have in place. Same thing for, I don't know, let's say alchemy and archery. You'll be able to tip your own arrows, you know. Um, so there's definitely, or like magic and cooking, you'll be able to set up your own cooking sources in the field. So you don't have to have like fuel or equipment to do so. So there's definitely a lot of there's definitely a lot of potential there. Now, what that's going to look like for each pair of skills, we can't say exactly yet, but we are putting a lot of consideration into it. Now, is that to say that you can unlock new things to level up? Probably not, just because there's already, we want all of that to be emergent and not as a result of arbitrarily knowing two skills. But you'll know more as we do.
Okay, final question. Sorry
Sure.
to keep going on, but will there be any sort of like kind of, how do I put it? Like almost synergies between different team members. So like a healer and a mage could combine their magic to create like for example, if the mage had like a poison field kind of thing, could a healer add on to it and create some sort of like a healing pool for allies and then a poison pool for enemies at the same time?
So what would probably happen is just the mage would make the poison pool and the healer would make the healing pool. So ideally, whenever it comes, and I get what you're saying and I hear you. Ideally, whenever it comes to synergies, they also come naturally, right? So a great example of a synergy that you would see out in the field in Asteria is a mage and a swordsman, right? If I have a mage in my party, they can either help me zone this monster or they can affect my sword to make me more powerful during that fight, right? In the same way that someone who uses arrows can complement a healer because there's a lot of aggro and distance pulling in scenarios like that. A lot of these things should happen naturally and not by some giant design. Now, that isn't to say that we won't do what we can to make sure that those things naturally interact with each other. I'm more than happy to create more scenarios for players who can work together. But a lot of that will come through just kind of naturally by play styles that people have.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of potential there, and that's why we took the no class approach.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. All right, yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'm gonna open this last little bit because I know that we cut over by 40 minutes. I'm gonna mark this as having 20 minutes left. If you guys have any questions about anything, not related to gameplay, but just Asteria in general, people on the team, things that we've done, in the past, or about the timeline for the game, about how the Kickstarter is going to work, anything like that, feel free. And I'll just let that be the last section here. All right, Spooky.
I'm back.
Welcome back. You beat him to it.
So, for like what was previously asked about like in-game moderators and stuff like that.
Sure.
Will there be any sort of application to apply to be an in-game moderator, or will it just be strictly off of like a regular who has gained a lot of trust?
If things go our way, it'll be a paid position.
Okay.
Those will be people that are in our company and actually have working hours, so they're not detracted from the experience. But otherwise, if that isn't the case, then it'll probably be members who have been in the community for a long time, members who we all trust on a personal level, and just specifically to fit the needs of, specific servers that might have gaps. But it's not going to be it's probably not going to be an open application thing. I'm very doubtful of that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Your next friend with the Japanese name. Go ahead and put your question in chat. Will I be able to let people move furniture and basically own the store/house I own? I don't know. We can't know right now. Just not with how much with how many ifs there are whenever it comes to owning buildings and like shops. We can't know right now. Eventually through playtesting we'll be able to see what is and isn't possible, but I'd be willing to say probably not that far. And you're not going to be able to become a landlord. That's not going to happen. All right, Crimson, you are up.
Okay, so about the Kickstarter, will there be tiers that like give you beta access or something?
Probably not. What'll probably happen actually is I'd be more willing to put out an open beta than anything, because a large player base is conducive to good results and good tests. Whenever it comes to the Patreon itself, the tiers provide early access, so builds before beta, early builds before stable releases. They get access to all of that stuff first. Will we have tiers that allow beta testing? No, because we don't have tiers that allow any testing. Just because testing is a much different beast than playing a game early, and I want to make sure that we have the absolute best chance of succeeding whenever it comes to QA.
Okay, and one more question.
Sure.
Using the funds you get from the Kickstarter, will you be hiring more staff on the team?
Yes. So right now we have I work on the game full time, and that is thanks to the incredible support of all the people who have donated to our Patreon. But I also have been contracting out 2 developers. You might have seen them in the chats. That is now in Toont. If we hit our Kickstarter goals, we will be able to move that to non-contract work. We'll be able to have multiple developers on the game full time. We'll be able to increase that development team and bring on actual designers and modelers instead of just contracting them out for specific stuff like we're doing now. And that's kind of where that mentality is. But yeah, there would be a pretty considerable expansion of the team.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. I'm pretty sure you were up next, Jaquavius. I'm almost positive you were up next. Actually, you're the only one with your hand up, so I'm gonna take that as a yes. Welcome back,
Right,
Fred.
so I know you're planning to launch a Kickstarter. Will your Patreon still remain active, or will you shut that down and just go full on Kickstarter?
We will shut it down, and here's what that transition will look like. So anything that we have made on the Patreon will be taken off the top of our Kickstarter goal. So let's say by the time we launch a Kickstarter, we've made, I don't know, $30,000 on Patreon. Our Kickstarter goal will be $30,000 less than it usually would be, because we've gotten to access those funds and use them for services earlier. All of the people who have donated to our Patreon before the Kickstarter will get exclusive supporter rewards that even people on the Kickstarter won't get. And then the Patreon will be shut down entirely.
Gotcha. All right, that was the only question I had.
Awesome. All right, Zach, you're up.
Hello again.
Hey, welcome back.
Oh, I just wanted to ask a question really quick that just came to mind. Are you what type of price point are you talking about for this type of game? Or is it going to be like a free to play where you can donate? What type of stuff are we talking about for this?
All right. Pricing question. Let's go ahead. I've seen a bunch of chat messages about it, so let's just go ahead and jump into it because it'll probably be the last big thing I talk about tonight. In terms of the pricing model for the game, there is a bunch of discussion about what the game should cost. We are taking the Final Fantasy model and adjusting it for our own needs. So the game will be free to play at first, and then you can get up to a pretty considerable level in all skills. And then from there, you can decide if you want to get to higher levels in those skills, you can opt into like a cheap subscription. And we're hoping that aims around $10, $15 a month at most. I really want to go for the lower end of 10 though, because that'd be really nice. And the only thing that not having a subscription would restrict you from is things like opening shops or running guilds. And those are things that would be locked to higher levels anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We're doing this for a few reasons, namely because we want to actually upkeep servers. I don't know if you noticed, but Township Tale had no funding, and because of that, they only had private servers, which means that anything in the name of like, I guess large scale engagement is out the window, because if you don't have a maintained server where everyone is collected, then that social economy doesn't exist. And the other important part is server upkeep, right? So the problem with Zenith is that they did not have enough funds to have their servers maintained. And from a financial perspective, anyone who buys the game outright that support is on a time crunch. Eventually, that support doesn't sustain servers. It doesn't add on to our ability as a team to continue to develop content. And also, it makes things like microtransactions and pay to win play games. It's the reason that Zenith, jumped at the end to do a whole bunch of microtransactions and a paid shop, and they switched their game. So that's kind of our mentality there. I know that there are some, I guess, adversities to it, but that's where that mentality is.
I joined. I wanted to talk about this real quick.
Okay.
Because
I'm
I
gonna go use the
know.
bathroom. Have fun.
Perfect. Yay. Okay, I have free reign of this. Okay. I know that when I went into all of this with Star, and he kind of got me into the aspect of VR development specifically, right? I did not know this, and so I want to bring this to you guys as well as someone who didn't know this, because I think sometimes he forgets. When he talks about server upkeep, those servers cost us monthly. So what he talks about is the reason why we would even have a subscription model in the first place is to upkeep them, in that it will cost us monthly. So if we do make it a flat fee across the board and everyone pays, that money we would keep, but it would not be able to fund any new content, one, and two, it would also not keep up with the servers forever. So after like a year or two, when that money runs out from the initial people who buy the game, then the DPD, our studio, would become bankrupt for it, and we would no longer have servers running whatsoever. So then no new content, no servers running, the game would die indefinitely. And knowing Star and I, we would probably try to keep it going as long as possible, so we might end up going bankrupt. I really wanted to talk about that because I know that when I went into it, I didn't know that servers cost monthly. I kind of like had an idea because when you have like a Minecraft server, that's kind of a monthly cost. But I didn't realize it was the same with VR, right? And server upkeep is a big deal in VR because, like Star has mentioned before, your headsets and controllers, one player is considered 3 players in a normal server, because of those kind of contact points. I think it's 3 for a normal, 6 for VR, and it's more, or 6 for full body, something like that. He could probably clarify when he's back from bathrooming. But as long as the servers are up, they will cost us money. And so we want to do a super cheap subscription model, but only after the majority of the content is kind of available to people, so that you don't have to pay if you don't want to. If you're not a hardcore player, if you play like once to 3 times a week, you don't have to worry about that. Every tracking point is clipped into player. Thank you now. I appreciate that. You don't have to pay it if you don't want to. but it does help us whenever it comes down to people who are supporting. Yeah, Jester said 6 for full body. Thank you, Jester. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. I know that I didn't know it going into all the development stuff, and so I figured I would hop in and update everyone. Okay.
Thank you, love.
I think he's. Oh, you're back. Thank God. Okay. All right. Thanks. I just wanted to bring that up because I know that I didn't know it, and I wanted to make it clear because I know sometimes you forget to mention that. So.
Zach, did you have anything else?
Not that came from my mind. That just popped in my head, and you guys find
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. I know that there's like a lot of discussion about the pricing model, so if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the discussion channel too, and we'll get to them.
I appreciate you. Have a good one.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Spooky, you're up.
All right. So kind of, I know what you said about the like whole no private server. One second. Just with the whole like private servers thing, could there be maybe like how a Township Tale was, where they had a subscription that could like be separate from the subscription of the actual game? Could it be like slightly a heightened price to be able to host your own server?
I'd say probably not. To have a world so large and systems so dependent on a large amount of players, to be reduced to a handful of them at most, I'd be willing to call it a very dangerous and gross misappropriation of the gameplay loop, and that kills games really quickly, right? That's why Township Tale is fun for a few hours, but once you realize that you're by yourself, or you have a player of 4 people, or one of the people on the server is the server owner, and has given himself all the best items and whatever, a lot of it loses its weight, you know?
Yeah.
It's the same reason that like playing unturned in creative or whatever is fun for, or with admin on is fun for a few hours, but you know, it just lacks a lot of substance, and the whole goal here is immersive substance. Now also has a really good point in chat,
Yeah.
so I'll leave it there. I don't think that we'll take the route of private servers. I just don't think that it's reasonable.
Alright.
Not for this experience.
All right, yeah, I see that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Cruzy, you're up.
Hello. So my question's pretty quick. Will there like
Sure.
be like a lore channel that you guys will put, so that way like I missed almost the entire first half, and it seems
That's
like y'all
okay.
talked a little bit about lore, so.
We'll probably not have a lore channel. We'll probably drop bits and pieces of it into updates for funsies as we continue development. What I will say is that we want the world to just be absolutely filled to the brim with it, right? There's this large overarching story about how the world was built, about how it's sustained, about the current goals. So we'll definitely share bits and pieces. I just don't think we'll have a dedicated channel for it.
Sick. And then just real quick, will these be recorded and maybe posted on YouTube at any point? Maybe not even just this one, just in general.
It depends on what it is. Now, the thing about Q&As is that as we continue to do these, eventually the questions will become less and less because the definition that we have will be more and more. The reason that Q&As are so valuable to us right now is because I don't have the most fleshed out FAQ in the world, and having these allows me to make progress on those, especially whenever it comes to questions regarding like life skills or price points or stuff like that. As we move forward, the need for Q&As will become less and less, and we can replace them with the community events. And if we want to record those and post them online, whatever, but you know.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Chicken, you're up.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
So do you have any plans to give players information about the game outside of it, like an official wiki?
Yeah, probably. Now, is that to say that we're going to give all the answers to everybody? No. I think that a lot of the joy comes from people exploring on their own, but ideally we have this is kind of tough because there's a balancing act that we have to have between I guess outside reference and what is reasonable for inside reference. I think if people are looking up wikis to know how to blacksmith or how to use magic, then we've failed, right? Those things should be learnable in game, and there should be documentation in game to help people learn them better. Now, whenever it comes to like spawns and stuff, I don't really know if a wiki is going to be super effective because we talked about procedural spawning. Whenever it comes to like lore, yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Now, it's probably more likely that someone else starts it before we do, just because people are crazy like that.
Yeah.
But I will talk with my team and we'll see what they think about it, because it's very possible that someone else starts it, and we have forums for it. It'd be cool.
Sweet.
Have any other questions?
That was it.
Awesome. All right, Giant, you are up.
All right.
What's up, Giant?
What I wanted to ask is, what I wanted to ask is, will there be cosmetics from a rare monster? Like,
Sorry, can you
not
say
like
that one more time? You cut out hard.
like like will there be cosmetics for a rare monster? Like, I'm not talking about like, ooh, like this yellow goblin or something. I mean
Like
you find
enemy
some cool,
variants?
and like you find like like little cave something, and like there's a big boss guy or whatever, and will you drop? Could you get a cool accessory from that?
Maybe. I think it's cool to have like, I think it's cool to have like small cosmetic trinkets that you can find around the world. I would love to say that we have another player actually make them, but that's stretch, dude. Like that's way farther than I think our scope allows us. So there's that.
Yeah, and I had to ask you something. Can you choose a number 24 or 1?
Can I choose a number of 24 or 1?
Yeah.
24.
Okay, and can you choose a number between 24 and 1?
23. Because 23rd is
Okay.
my birthday. Oh, that was it. All right. Then we had, I'm pretty sure it was Note and then Note and then Spooky. All right, Note, you're up.
I don't know if this was covered yet, but in the world, is there going to be like secret areas like dungeons or caves and caverns
Yes.
and all of that stuff? Okay.
So we actually want to extend that further and have secret areas be littered everywhere, right? I think one of the coolest things in any game is whenever you're exploring an area and you accidentally step through a waterfall and then all of a sudden you're in this beautiful little oasis, or you
Okay. Yes.
walk
Yes.
into a
Yes.
clearing, into a forest, and it's this beautiful clearing with like multicolored roses and the sky is visible. There's so much potential for small social interaction spaces that we'd be stupid to pass up on it.
Okay. And then in game, is there going to be the trading system for like exchanging goods for gold and whatnot? Can you just send someone gold or whatever the currency is if they complete a task for you? Is that
Yeah. So the idea is that everything is based on exchange, right? So if I go, like, let's say that I'm a blacksmith and I send someone off to go get a piece of alloy for me or something. I mean, it wouldn't be an alloy if it's in nature, but let's say that I go get some dude to go get some metal for me, and he goes and gets this like really great ore. Nothing happens until he brings it back to me, and I trade with him, and I give him gold for it. Alternatively, it's possible that we consider a system where like just like the messages you can deliver items back to a quest giver, and that'll count as a completion. Just for convenience sake, we don't know yet though. So jury's out on that one.
Yeah, for like mission, not like mercenary boards and or like
Right.
I'm blanking. I just had it. Sorry.
Like quest boards.
Yeah. Like other people were talking about earlier.
Right. Yeah, we've definitely made some considerations. We just won't know until we know what's possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Spooky, you were up. Jiro's question will be the last question. It is 9 o'clock.
Okay, I'm gonna try and speed run through these.
You're good.
So for trading or exchange of currency, will it work just with something as simple as just like clicking on them, typing in how much you want to send them of what, and then sending it, or would it actually be in the form of like giving them bags of coins, or how would that work?
I mean, it's going to be physical in some capacity. I don't know if it'll be bags of coins per se. There's probably going to have to be a trade interface. Like, there's no way around a trade interface. It's possible that we have like locations where you can securely trade, but I don't know yet. We won't know because that's more of a design question. The real question is how can we integrate trade that is secure but also is immersive? So again, jury's out on that one.
All right, and then with like crafting items, if there were maybe like specific recipes where the player had to actually unlock them themselves, would it be through like could the player find them, or would they be able to almost get taught by another player on that set like specific crafting recipe?
Okay, sorry. Say that one more time. I kind of zoned out there for a second.
So for players getting crafting recipes, saying that they aren't immediately all unlocked, would they have to maybe find the crafting recipes somewhere in the world if they were like some sort of secret thing, or could they almost get taught by other players like how to build that specific thing?
It'll probably be taught by other players, but you shouldn't really have to like do anything crazy to acquire. You shouldn't really have to acquire recipes. It should happen through you leveling up, right? So you'll have access to craft more things, and what'll probably happen is there will be something small like a provision store where anyone doing a life skill can purchase certain equipment. It'll probably have to be an NPC, but you'll be able to unlock a recipe, like a one-time recipe, or equipment for cooking or for blacksmithing something or other, or for smithing templates. That's probably where that'll come from, but it won't be like any quest or anything. Once you level up, you'll have access to that.
Okay. How will stuff like learning actual, or well, hold on, I'm gonna hold that one because I'm still kind of thinking about it. But
Okay.
so for stuff like, because I know I had talked about like if I were to be a blacksmith, I could mark it with like a ghost or something, and Kat answered and said that that will exist. But will there be anything of the sort where I can like brand items that I craft instead of just blacksmithing things? Like I can carve a ghost into like a bowl or something?
Probably not. Only because you won't be crafting bowls. Typically, crafting comes down to consumables, right? So think arrows or torches or things like traps or potion bottles. And in terms of engraving, I think that there is I don't know. I think there's very. I don't want to say little value, but I think the value is greatly diminished. Engraving your name onto a consumable. Unless it's done for you and immediately and perfectly every time. So it's not a time constraint to the entire loop. Whenever it comes to like actual engravings, right now the only thing that we have working for engravings are names. Like the name of the player that made it, which can be done automatically and procedurally. Now, will we ever open the door for like blacksmiths to have crests? Maybe, but they'd have to be moderated, and we're not there yet. So
Okay. All right. And two more things.
Sure.
This one is probably a stretch and like not even in a distant like future, like it's very far away. Do you plan to have any like sort of collaborations with other games?
Boy, wouldn't that be cool? I could never know right now, but if we ever got like a Demon Slayer collaboration, unfortunately, like I'd have to jump on it. Like it'd have to be immediate. Yes, we would. We would definitely add like cool brand things.
Okay.
As long as we could keep them within like reason.
All right. And then final thing, for the player actually learning how to do stuff such as just simple blacksmithing or culinary arts, is there going to be some sort of tutorial world like when you first start, like how it was in Township Tale, or will it be something completely different?
It'll be tutorial areas, right? So you'll have a okay, so here's what we envision for a tutorial. I won't get too much into the specifics because I realized that I spoiled it kind of hard last time. But the game will start in a fight, and you'll have a basic tutorial of like moving around and how to interact with stuff on your person. And then eventually, through some event, which I won't disclose, you'll find yourself in Asteria. And then from there, once you have the basics of like locomotion and interaction down, you'll be able to go to these different schools around Solara that will teach you to do things like combat or smithing or magic. So everything will kind of be in one place because why wouldn't it be? You know.
Mm-hmm. Will this be alongside other players or even be taught by players?
Both. So it's going to be automated to an extent because obviously, the potential for bad actors is there, but we do want to invest in a very mentor-heavy system. So yeah, it's very possible that you learn skills through mentors instead. And if we can, we will give them the tools to train you in place of, an NPC. I think that would be a great experience.
All right. Yeah, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Jiro, you have the last question. You were up.
Hello.
What's up?
Okay, so I have just a little bit.
That's fine.
First question is, are you going to be able to rob or steal from other players?
No.
Okay. Second question is, how much can you customize armor and weapons and stuff? Is it just going to be engravings, or like what else can you add to armor, like colors, stuff like that?
So starting with weapons, because I think weapons are a lot more palatable when it comes to customization. You can expect different hilts, blade shapes, styles, different pommels, handguards, wraps, different colored wraps, and also just the main material of the weapon itself. A lot of it will be customizable. And the good thing about those customization options is that they're pretty easy to implement. A lot of it is just color swatches, but it gives a lot of individuality. And that way, your sword, your skill determines your strength and not your weapon. Whenever it comes to armor, there's a lot in the air because we kind of don't know how we want to do armor just yet. It's one of those things that's kind of hard to consider. Like, do we want armor to be a loot thing? Do we want it to be made by someone? How is it going to be made? Because the process for making a weapon is, in my opinion, much simpler than making armor. And from a VR perspective, how do we implement that, even if at all? So, jury's out on that one, but as soon as we have a conclusive answer, you guys will all know as well.
A small one is, will there be like toggleable full IK, or is it just going to be like what are the comfort settings planned to be?
So in terms of IK, which I'm assuming that you're referring to, being able to see yourself, if that's what
Yeah.
you're talking about. So we'll probably have settings for certain comfort, but the default will definitely be that you can see your entire body.
Okay.
Because there are going to be things on your body that are important, similar to Blade and Sorcery, right? You'll be able to see wounds on your own body that you can tend to, or pieces of information. The node for your menu is going to be attached to your left or right wrist. When it comes to actual IK, which I was working on today, there's going to be IK for when you are idle or when you're climbing, so your feet will solve positions themselves.
Awesome.
But everything below the waist will be animated during locomotion. So it's not this gross, janky IK movement
Yeah.
whenever you're moving across a field or something or other. So that's how we plan on handling that.
All right. My last question is this might have been asked. I kind of just recently joined, but how big will the map be, and will players have to rely on actual navigation, or will there be like a in-game map?
Good question. So, in terms of the map being large, at least large enough to necessitate mounts, which is why horses were kind of being worked on for a minute there.
Right.
I think one of the big things that I would definitely, or I will note for now, is that the size of the map is going to depend on how well we can cram our performance. You know, because large maps are a nightmare for VR. So a lot of it's really going to come down to play testing to see what is possible. But ideally, we can have it big in instance out cities where needed, because we want the world to be very expansive. We want there to be a lot to do, a lot of places to go and see without it feeling empty. In terms of navigation, there will probably be a map, but it'll be rudimentary, and you'll have to discover locations on your own.
Okay,
And there
it's
will
kinda
also
like
be
Breath of the
tools
Wild.
for navigation. Yeah, there will be tools for navigation as well. Specifically, like we were talking about earlier, like spells where you can see the direction of a player that you know.
I was there for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's a few things that we've considered. Um, but again, we'll probably have more as time goes on.
Okay. Actually, I forgot about this one, but this is just like a small question.
Sure.
Are you guys taking any inspiration from any other VR games? Like for certain
Partially.
mechanics?
I think that Blade and Sorcery has a good system for like just the way that their players interact with the world. I like a lot of their choices for movement. Like it feels really good to move around in that game.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to actual mechanics, I think that a lot of what we're doing is kind of against the grain for VR. I mean, there's a lot of games that we've seen that have tried to push the boundaries and do, but not in the direction that we want. I think if I had to give inspiration for non-VR games, I'd say a lot of it comes from first games like Monster Hunter. I love Breath of the Wild stylistically.
Awesome.
And mediums, obviously Sword Art Online's a big one, but also La Frontier is huge. I love Demon Slayer, Kill la Kill. Definitely a lot of inspiration for a lot of different pathways here. So
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
awesome, no problem.
Good night.
All right, Giant, you're lucky I like you. This is the last question. Go ahead.
Greetings again.
Welcome back.
I want to know, will there be stamina?
Yes.
Wait, I can't hear you.
Yes. There will be stamina.
Can you talk again?
There will be stamina. Stamina will be in the game. Ah, stamina. Ah. Stamina. You guys kill me. So I will say, for stamina, stamina is gonna like be one of those like core skills that you can level up, and it'll affect things like sprinting and climbing. It'll also affect physical attacks. If and only if we feel that there is not effort to move your weapons around in a way that is conducive to combat. Otherwise, we won't, and we'll just have it be weight based, and your sprinting around and jumping and dodging will be draining of your stamina. When is the AK coming to the game? We were joking for a while about Guardians, so like the game moderators all having Glocks, which would be really funny. It'd be really really hilarious if I was moderating somebody and I pull out a perfectly modeled like Glock 19 tac light armor. Can I run around entire field if I swing my hands fast enough? You can, but there's stamina. We're gonna implement arm swinger, but there is stamina. So Will there be sports? Ooh, good question. I haven't gotten that question ever. Will there be sports? Probably. I mean, it's a small thing to implement. Like, I could imagine a bunch of players playing like volleyball or something, like right outside of town or something. You know, I could see that, or like on a beach. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool social thing. I could see that existing. Day-night cycle, yeah, that exists. All right, we're not. Yeah, I'm not answering questions in town square. If I did that this whole time, it would have been a couple hours longer. But it's been 3 hours and 15 minutes, which is an hour and 15 over what I wanted, which is fine. I think we had a. It didn't feel like that long. I feel like we all had a good conversation. But I really do appreciate all of you for being here and taking the time to come out and ask questions. Yeah, that'll do it. I'm pretty sure that someone else is transcripting this. If not, I'm sorry. But what I will say is, hopefully, I should have a TikTok out Monday for the signature art thing that we've been working on, which I'll post a fun little sneak peek of soon. But yeah, good night, guys. Happy Pride Month.